When my parents picked my brother's tournament over my award, I cut contact. 13 months later, Forbes published my face. They finally Googled me. The invitation arrived in a cream-colored envelope with gold embossing. You are cordially invited to the National Innovation Awards ceremony to recognize this year's Young Innovator Award winners. My name appeared on the third line below, recipient Ryan Carter, Software Innovation category. I had 1 out of 250 candidates nationwide. 28 years old. My facial recognition accessibility program for visually challenged users has been named one of the year's greatest breakthroughs. The ceremony took place on December 12th at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., and was black tie. My project would be featured. I would deliver a 5-minute speech. There would be press, industry leaders, and prospective investors. It was the pinnacle of my career. I called my parents that night. Hey, I got some news. What's up? Mom's voice sounded distracted, and there was a TV in the background. I earned an award. National Innovation Awards. It's a huge deal. Oh, that's great, honey. The ceremony is on December 12th in Washington, D.C. Congratulations. There is a supper thereafter. You and Dad are invited. +1 is permitted. I can get you tickets. Pause. December 12th. Yes, Saturday night. I understand it's short notice, but I just found out. A longer silence. Let me check with your father. I heard a muted conversation with Dad's voice in the background. Mom came back. Sweetie, that's the same weekend as Tyler's basketball tournament. Tyler is my younger brother, a 23-year-old college senior and point guard. It's just one night, I said. The tournament lasts whole weekend, right? Yes, but this is the championship bracket. He really wants us there. I really want you at my awards ceremony. I understand, but this is essential to Tyler. He's worked extremely hard. I sat there holding the phone. So I haven't? That wasn't what I meant. It's simply that basketball is his entire life right now, and I own this software. Can't you record your speech? Send us a video? I closed my eyes. Mom, this is a national award. I am being honored at the Kennedy Center. I realize that. But Tyler's tournament is more important. You got it. Don't be like that. I'm not like anything. I'm simply understanding the priorities. We'll attempt to make it if the game schedule allows. Don't worry, Mom. I hung up. I was sitting in the studio of my Arlington flat. Small and cheap. Every penny went into my startup. I looked over the invitation again, noting the gold embossing and my name. Then I looked at a family photo on my bookshelves. Last Christmas we were all at Tyler's college. We had driven 6 hours to see him play. Mom wore his jersey number. Dad had a foam finger. When Mom shared the photo on Facebook, I was in the back row, half clipped out. It was fine. That was natural. I opened my laptop and wrote an email to the awards committee. The names of the 3 guests are Lauren Kim and Michael Grant. Lauren was my business partner. Michael was my graduate school mentor. Not my parents nor my brother. People who had personally been there. I pressed send. The next 2 weeks were chaotic, finalizing my speech, tailoring it, coordinating with Lauren and Michael, booking hotels and planning flights. My phone remained quiet. Mom did not follow up with me. No call from Dad. Tyler sent an SMS 2 days before the event. I heard you won something. Congratulations, bro. Just that. No inquiries, no details. Just enough to indicate that he had acknowledged it. I did not respond. On December 11th I flew to Washington, D.C. We met Lauren and Michael at the hotel. Are your parents coming tomorrow? Lauren inquired over supper. No. Oh, a work thing? Brother's basketball tournament? She set down her fork. You're joking. Nope. Michael, who had known me for 5 years, simply shook his head. That's incredibly messed up. It's fine. It's not fine, Lauren told me. It's tremendous. This is your moment. I understand. That is why you two are here. We ate silently for a minute. Michael raised his glass. To Ryan, who built something extraordinary, with or without family support. We clinked our glasses. That night I could not sleep. I kept checking my phone. Part of me hoped Mom would text, saying they had changed their minds, that they would drive through the night, and that I was important enough. Nothing. December 12th at 5 p.m., I was wearing my tuxedo. Lauren wore a black dress. Michael wore a suit that really fit for once. We entered the Kennedy Center, where there was a red carpet and cameras, as well as other awardees and their families. I witnessed a woman about my mother's age crying while her daughter posed. I saw a parent tighten his son's bow tie. I saw siblings hugging and friends cheering. I saw everyone there with someone. "Are you okay?" Lauren whispered. "Yeah." My category was third, software innovation. They showed a film on my study, in which blind users discussed how facial recognition helped them identify family members, navigate social situations, and feel less isolated. Then my name, Ryan Carter. I walked onto the stage, shook hands with the presenter, and got the Crystal Award. It was weighty and substantial. I looked out at the audience, which included hundreds of people, industry leaders, the press and families. Lauren and Michael stood 4 rows back and applauded. Not my parents, but those who believed in me when it counted. I gave a 5-minute speech about accessibility, technology's responsibility to serve everyone, and the users who motivated me. Received a standing ovation, walked off stage, held the prize, smiled for photos, and felt absolutely hollow. The subsequent dinner was placed in a downtown ballroom, open bar, networking, and everyone discussing their innovations, businesses and futures. I stood at the bar, drinking my second whiskey, and watching everyone else celebrate with their families. My phone vibrated. Mom sent a text. "How did it go?" I stared at the message, 4 words sent 5 hours after the ceremony had concluded. There was no, "wish we were there," or, "we're proud of you." Just 4 words that felt like an obligation. I did not respond. Another buzz, this one from Tyler. "We've won! Championship, baby! Basketball trophy." Photo is attached. The team trophy, Mom and Dad in the backdrop, and enormous smiles. Dad wrapped his arm around Tyler, and Mom cried joyous tears. The precise comfort they couldn't provide me. I put away my phone. Lauren found me and said, "Stop hiding. There is a venture capitalist who wants to discuss funding." I am not hiding. You are actually standing in the corner drinking alone. I am networking internally. She dragged me into a group and introduced me. I shook hands, discussed my product, gave out business cards, and pretended everything was normal. That night, back at the motel, I reached a conclusion. I opened my phone and looked at the family group chat. Tyler's championship shot prompted 17 replies of celebration, congrats, and pride. My prize had not been mentioned once. I scrolled up and found the last time I posted something. My software was introduced 3 months ago. Dad responded with cool, and Mom with a heart emoji. Compared to Tyler's basketball update from the same week, 34 responses, full chats, Mom sharing with her friends. I took a screenshot and saved it. Then I did something I had been contemplating for years. I quit the group chat discreetly, without making a statement or causing any commotion. Then I went through my contacts and blocked Mom, Dad, and Tyler's numbers. Not out of rage, but out of clarity. They had made their choice. December 12th, Kennedy Center National Award. They'd chosen a basketball game, so I chose myself. I opened my email, began a draft to my parents, wrote and deleted 5 variants, and eventually settled on. I received a national award tonight. I delivered a speech at the Kennedy Center. I met investors that trust in my work. It was one of the most enjoyable nights of my life. Tyler had a basketball game, which is why you weren't there. I now understand priorities. My goal is to create a life in which I do not wait for those who do not show up. Do not contact me. I need some room. I need to focus on those who genuinely support me. That is not you. I hope Tyler's team enjoyed their victory. I'm confident it was worth it. Ryan, I read it 3 times before deleting it with my finger hovering over send. Sending it meant that I still wanted their understanding and appreciation. Instead, I just remained silent. There is no explanation or goodbye, only absence. They had taught me that I was optional, so I was opting out. The next morning, I flew home, changed my voicemail, removed social media applications, and configured my email to automatically delete anything from their addresses. Lauren noticed. "Are you okay? You have been quiet." "I'm okay. I was just thinking about your family. About how I don't need them to succeed." She watched. Me. No contact. No contact. For how long? Until they've earned it back. If they ever do. She nodded. Good. You deserve better. That week, my phone was continuously ringing. Unknown numerals. I didn't respond. The voicemails piled up. Mom. "Honey, you've left the family chat. Did you mean it? Call me back." Dad. "Your mother is worried. You are being childish. Call us." Tyler. Dude, what's up? Why have you blocked me? I deleted them all without hearing the end. Christmas arrived. No gifts from me arrived at their home. I spent it with Lauren and her family. Her parents inquired about mine. I said we weren't in touch. They did not push. New Year's. I established a goal. To make Forbes's 30 under 30 list. Not for them. For me. I worked 18-hour days, scaled my program, closed funding rounds, hired a team, and created something irrefutable. And for a year, my family was only a memory. I stopped checking. No calls, texts, or drops. Just stillness. The type that enables you to hear yourself clearly for the first time. And what I heard was this. I'd been waiting my entire life for them to congratulate me in the same way they did Tyler. But the celebration never came. So I stopped waiting and began creating something they could not ignore. Even if they had never seen it. The hush lasted exactly 13 months. Not because I was counting, but because that was the time it needed to create something undeniable. January began quietly. I relocated to a better apartment with 1 bedroom, natural light, and space for a home office. I paid for it myself. No housewarming party. Only Lauren and I were there to assist unpack, and Michael brought pizza. This is nice, Lauren commented, gazing around. Adult apartments. The studio was getting cramped. Do you mean depressing? That too. My phone remained blocked. Occasionally I received a voicemail notice from an unfamiliar number. I would remove it without listening. Did not need to. I knew what they'd say. Some variation of, "Why are you doing this? Call us back. You're overreacting." Never say, "We're sorry," or, "We should have been there." In February, we closed our $1.5 million Series A investment round. Led by a VC who had attended the award ceremony, witnessed my speech, and believed in the concept. The tech sites mentioned it briefly, nothing significant, but enough. Facial recognition startup receives financing. Accessibility software increases popularity. I wanted to see if my relatives would notice, if dad Googled my name, if mom would set notifications. Nothing. In March we hired our first 4 employees. A small team. Everyone's starving. Everyone believed in what we were creating. I worked 12-hour days, sometimes 16. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because creating something was more important than focusing on those who didn't. April brought us our first large client, a blind school in Boston. They wanted to test our program. 20 students. Real users, real impacts. I flew out to meet them. I witnessed a 16-year-old girl use our app to identify her teacher for the first time without assistance. She cried. I cried. The teacher cried. That night I almost called my mother. Almost wanted to share it. Didn't, because she demonstrated that she wasn't interested unless it featured a ball and a scoreboard. In May, Michael advised that I apply for Forbes 30 under 30. You are 28, you have time, so why wait? I don't know if I'm Forbes material. You created accessible technology that assists visually impaired persons in identifying faces. You raised over $1 million. You're growing. What else do you need? A famous last name. He laughed. Please apply. Worst case scenario, you don't make it. In the best case scenario, you show everyone who doubted you incorrect. I applied, filled out the lengthy form, submitted financial documents, wrote essays on innovation, impact and scalability, attached news clippings, user testimonials and funding announcements, pushed submit at 2 a.m., and then forgot about it. In June my firm reached 12,000 users. Lauren hosted a workplace celebration with cupcakes, champagne, and team photographs. I shared one on LinkedIn, professional, celebrating a milestone. I tagged the team. My personal social media accounts remained inactive. I removed Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as any other platforms my family could use to stay in touch without actually communicating. If they wanted to know what I was doing, they would have to inquire. They did not. July brought an unexpected visitor, my cousin Samantha, mom's niece. We'd been close as children. She arrived at my office unannounced. Hey stranger, I looked up from my computer. Samantha? How did you ... LinkedIn. Your company's address is public, she said, holding up a coffee. Peace offering. I allowed her inside. We sat in a small meeting room. So, she said. You disappeared. I left a situation that wasn't working. Your mom's worried. Is she? All right, she's largely puzzled. She doesn't understand what happened. I earned a national award. They skipped it to attend Tyler's basketball game. I decided I didn't want people to treat me as an afterthought. Samantha was quiet. That's fair. Is it? Because obviously I'm the terrible guy for setting boundaries. You aren't the bad guy. But you already know how your family is. Tyler is the star. Always has been. So I'm simply meant to accept that? No. I'm saying I understand why you left. I studied her. Did Mom send you? Oh God, no. She is unaware that I am here. I arrived after seeing your fundraising announcement. $1.5 million is a large sum. Thanks. Also, I remember what it was like growing up and seeing Tyler get everything. Watching you take whatever was left over. I didn't think anyone noticed. I observed. It sucked. And I am sorry I never said anything. We talked for an hour about family, expectations, and what it meant to move away from harmful people, even if they shared your DNA. Before she departed, she hugged me. I am proud of you. What you've built. How you're handling this. All of it. Thanks, Samantha. If you ever want to grab coffee, just us, no family drama, let me know. I will. She departed. And for the first time since the Kennedy Center, I felt as if someone in my family had seen me. In August we extended to 3 more cities, formed connections with accessibility organizations, and hired 2 more developers. Revenue was increasing, press coverage was increasing. The company was becoming a reality. In September I received an email, subject, Forbes 30 Under 30, congratulations. My hands shook when I opened it. Dear Ryan Carter. Congratulations. You have been chosen for the Forbes 30 Under 30 in the corporate technology category. You are one of 500 people chosen from over 18,000 nominations in all categories. The list will be published in our December edition, following an online announcement on November 30th. We'll need new images and a quick interview. Welcome to Forbes' 30 Under 30 community. Best regards, Forbes editorial team. I sat there and read it 3 times. I made it. Forbes 30 Under 30. At 28 I called Lauren. I'm in. In what? Forbes. She actually yelled. Oh my God! Oh my God! Michael was next. He cried. I knew it. I knew you would. That night the 3 of us went out to dinner at an upscale restaurant to celebrate. They toasted me, took pictures, and posted about it. I grinned, laughed, felt proud, and didn't think about my family because I had accomplished this without them. Despite them. The interview with Forbes was conducted over Zoom. A journalist inquired about my path, inspiration, and problems. Any family support? She inquired. My business partner and my mentor. They've been there since the beginning. What about parents? Siblings? We're not in contact. Oh, can I ask why? They prioritized my brother's basketball game over my awards ceremony. I decided to prioritize myself. She paused. That's going in the piece. Good. October passed in a haze. More growth, more users, more meetings, and more evidence that I had made the right decision. Forbes sent the advanced copy on November 29th. The magazine was scheduled to be released on December 3rd. Online announcement for November 30th at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I noticed my photo, full page, next to my company name, age and achievement. Ryan Carter, 28, is the founder and CEO of Vision AI, which makes facial recognition accessible to the visually challenged. Below is a quote from my interview. Success is not about proving others incorrect. It is about proving yourself correct. I forwarded a copy to Lauren and Michael. They replied within minutes. Lauren tells me, this is everything. So proud of you. Michael's reaction. Framing this. Putting it in my office. I went to bed that night knowing that in 7 hours, the piece will be live. My family would ultimately find out, perhaps through a friend or Google, but not from me. Because I didn't build it for them. I had created it in spite of them. And it made it much sweeter. November 30th, 7:01 a.m. My phone exploded. Not from my family, but from everyone else. LinkedIn notifications, text messages from past coworkers, and emails from mentors and former instructors. Saw the Forbes list, congratulations. Knew you'd make it. This is incredible. I grinned as I saw them arrive and spoke to a few of them. Then I received a call from an unknown number. I nearly didn't respond, but curiosity won. Hello Ryan, it's Samantha, have you seen the news? What news? Your family. Oh my god, they're losing their minds. What do you mean? Tyler found your Forbes article. My heart has stopped. How? He was at the dentist waiting room. Someone left the magazine, December issue. He was flipping through it and saw your face. I could not talk. Ryan, you there? Yeah. What happened? He called your dad from the dentist's office panicking. I heard it through your mom. He was freaking out. How did he do this? Like he performed magic? I began laughing. I couldn't help it. It's not funny, Samantha replied. Okay, it's a little funny. But they're spiraling. Your mom's calling everyone asking if they knew. Your dad's Googling you. They found the funding announcement, the company. Everything. Good. They want to reach out. I'm still blocked. They'll find a way. Just warning you. Thanks, Samantha. After I hung up, I sat there thinking. Tyler had accidentally discovered my Forbes piece at a dentist's office and frightened because I'd done something he couldn't understand. Something that didn't require their help or presence. Something that demonstrated I didn't need them. My phone rang again, another unknown number. This time, I knew who it was, and I had a choice. Answer and let them back in, or let it ring and continue living the life I'd built without them. I gazed at my Forbes magazine on the coffee table, thinking about my face, my company, and the accomplishments I had attained without, despite, or beyond them. The telephone stopped ringing. I didn't call back because silence can be more powerful than any discussion. The calls did not stop. Over the next 4 days I received 40 calls from unknown numbers. I let each one go to voicemail. I listened to exactly 0 of them. On December 3rd the magazine hit the stands. Samantha gave me photographs of Barnes & Noble, airport newsstands and grocery store checkout lines. Forbes included my face next to the slogan 30 under 30. She also supplied screenshots from the family group chat, which I had quit a year earlier. Mom. Did anyone know about this? Tyler responded. I literally found out at the dentist. Dad said, he never mentioned Forbes. Aaron responded. Maybe because none of you talked to him. Mom. That isn't fair. He cut us off. Aaron responded. After you skipped his award for a basketball game. I took a screenshot of that and forwarded it to Samantha. Your mom's a real one. Samantha. She waited a year to say that. LOL. The media requests began. Tech blogs were looking for interviews. Podcasts wanted me as a guest. The local news wanted to feature the hometown success story. I conducted 3 interviews. Each time they inquired about my journey. Every time I told the truth. My family chose not to support me, so I built something without them. Clean. Factual. No emotion. However, it had an impact. The clips went viral. Forbes 30 under 30 creator discusses family members that did not believe in him. Tech CEO triumphs despite family preference for brothers basketball over his award. Comment sections have erupted. This is why chosen family matters more than blood. Parents who play favorites deserve to lose their kids. He did not need them to win. That's power. December 5th. My office receptionist buzzed me. Ryan, there is someone coming to see you. Says she is your mother. My stomach sank. Tell her I'm not available. I did. She says she will wait. Tell her I'm not available today, or tomorrow, or ever. Pause. Okay, I'll let her know. 10 minutes later, Lauren knocked on my door. Your mom's still in the lobby. I know. What would you like to do? Nothing. She will leave eventually. She brought a casserole. I nearly laughed. A casserole in a Pyrex dish. She told Jen at reception, it's your favorite. It isn't. Lauren sat down. Would you like to chat to her? No. Are you sure? Completely. She had 13 months to reach out, apologize and admit her actions. She waited till I was in Forbes. That's fair. My mother stayed in the lobby for 3 hours. Lauren eventually went down and told her I was not coming out. She left the casserole with a letter. Lauren brought both into my office. I threw away the dish unopened. Read the note. Ryan, I understand you're unhappy, but this has gone on long enough. We are family. The family works through things. Call me. We need to talk. Love you, Mom. I showed it to Lauren. Do you notice anything missing? She read it. No apology? Exactly. Just, you're unhappy, as if I were being crazy. And we need to chat, as if I owed her a conversation. I crumpled the paper and threw it away alongside the dish. December 5th. Dad took a different approach. He showed up to my gym at 5:30 a.m. We waited in the parking lot. When I pulled in, I spotted him sitting in his car, drinking coffee. I parked 3 spaces away, got out. He did too. Ryan, please. Just 10 minutes. I placed my gym bag over my shoulder. No. I'm your father. And I am your son. The one you left at the Kennedy Center. We did not forget. We played a basketball game. I understand. You made your decision. It wasn't like that. So what was it like, Dad? He struggled. Tyler needed us, but you didn't. You're always so independent. You never seemed to need us. I paused and turned to face him fully. I earned a national award. I told you about it. I asked you to come. You mentioned possibly if Tyler's playing schedule allowed. That isn't independence. That's your decision. We were going to come to the next one. There's no next one. That was my moment. And you were not there. We're sorry. Are you? Are you sorry I didn't tell you I made Forbes? He looked down. Both. At least you're honest. I began strolling toward the gymnasium. Wait, your mother misses you. She misses the version of me that didn't require effort. That's not fair. I turned back. Do you know what isn't fair? Tyler received a championship party, a team meal, social media posts, and teary pleased parents. I got, how did it go? 5 hours after the ceremony, via text. That is not fair. We didn't know how important it was to you. Because you did not inquire. You assumed. You constantly assume I am fine, that I do not require attention, and that I am low maintenance. But you know what? I am no longer your low maintenance son. I'm one of Forbes's 30 under 30. And I did it without you. His face wrinkled. Can we please just talk? We're discussing. And I'm finished. I walked in. I didn't look back. Tyler did his best that night. Arrived at my apartment, managed to get past the building door, and knocked till I responded. Come on, dude. This is insane. What do you want, Tyler? I want my brother back. Do you want your brother back? Where was my brother when I received the national award? Oh. Right. I am shooting free throws. That is not fair. I had a championship game. And I had the most significant moment of my career. Which one mattered most? They're both important. So why did Mom and Dad choose yours? He did not have a response. Exactly. I started closing the door. Wait. I've read the Forbes piece, the interview. You mentioned that we were not in communication. You told the entire world. I told the truth. It makes us look bad. You look how you acted. I didn't know it meant that much to you. You never asked. You never pondered why I stopped speaking to you. You simply assumed I was being dramatic. I tried to call once, 3 days after you blocked me. Make one call. There is no follow-up. Tyler. That is not trying. That's checking a box. He passed his hand through his hair. I don't know what you want from me. I do not want anything from you. That is the point. I wanted you there a year ago. Now I'm fine. Is that it? Are we simply no longer brothers? We were not brothers when it counted. Why pretend now? I closed and locked the door, then heard him remain there for a minute before walking away. My phone vibrated. Samantha sent a text. I heard Tyler tried to see you. You okay? Me? Yeah. I'm just tired of explaining obvious things. Samantha. For what it's worth, half of the family believes you're correct. They're simply frightened to say it. Me. That is nice. But I don't need their approval anymore. Samantha. I understand. That is why I am proud of you. December 10th. The Forbes Gala invitation has arrived. You are cordially invited to the Forbes 30 Under 30 Summit and Gala in Boston, Massachusetts, from January 22nd to 25th. 4 days of panels, networking, and a celebratory dinner. +1 is permitted. I invited Lauren and Michael, no question. That night I wrote on LinkedIn, professional, clean, and pleased to be chosen a Forbes 30 under 30. Thank you to my teammates, investors, and everyone who believed in Vision AI's objective. I look forward to the summit in January. No mention of family. No mention of the journey. Just facts. Colleagues, industry executives, and past professors all expressed their congratulations. And then, buried among the comments, one from my mother. I'm really proud of you, Ryan. Always have been. Heart. I stared at that remark. Always has been. Always. I checked her profile and saw she had never commented on any of my previous posts. Not my funding announcement, my company milestones, or anything else. But now, a public statement on the most visible accomplishment, not because she was proud, but because she wanted others to see her as proud. I erased her comment. I blocked her on LinkedIn. Lauren called. Did you see your mother's comment? I deleted it. Good. That was a hell of a performance, right? Always has been. Was that at the Kennedy Center? Nowhere. Because it's nonsense. We spoke for an hour about family, limits, and the summit. Are you ready for Boston? She inquired. We're more than ready. This time, people will actually show up. Damn right. December passed into January. The calls from unknown numbers slowed and finally ceased. My family recognized I wasn't coming back, that Forbes wasn't a fluke, and that I'd created something substantial. And they missed everything. Not just the Forbes announcement, but the entire journey. Those late nights. The failures. Small wins. The biggest ones. All of it. While they were attending basketball games. On January 21st, I flew to Boston. Lauren and Michael greeted me at the motel. Are you ready for this? Michael asked. I looked at the Forbes Summit banner in the lobby, and my name was on the participant list. Yeah. I am ready. Does your family know you are here? I don't know. I don't care. Lauren smiled. That's growth. The summit featured 4 days of seminars, networking, and celebration for 600 persons under 30 who had created something amazing. I was one of them. On the last night, the gala, I stood on stage with the other enterprise technology winners, all 5 of us holding plaques and smiling for photos. I peered out into the audience and saw Lauren and Michael in the 3rd row, standing and clapping, the individuals who had actually been there. And I didn't worry about my family once, because I'd finally learned the most crucial lesson. You can't make people proud if they refuse to see you. But you may create something so undeniable that their blindness is their loss, not yours. That was more than enough. The Forbes Summit concluded on Sunday night. I flew home with Lauren and Michael, watching the city lights blur beneath us. Different than last year, huh? Lauren said. I understood what she meant. Last year's win at the Kennedy Center was hollow, with empty seats where my family should have been. This year the auditorium was filled, and many showed up. Yeah, I replied. Very different. February brought what I had been avoiding, an email from my high school principal. We would love to have you speak at Career Day. Forbes 30 under 30 alumni. Students would become inspired. I stared at the email for 3 days. My high school is 15 minutes from my parents' residence. The same trophy cases that overlooked my academic achievements while praising Tyler's basketball. The same halls where teachers advised me to be more well-rounded. Part of me wanted to decline, retain the distance, and be safe. But another part of me, the part that had built a company from the ground up, wanted to stroll those halls as the person I had become. Accept it, I urged my new helper Julia. Schedule it for March. The school announced it on social media. Alumni success story returns. Samantha texted 2 days later. Your mother is losing her mind. I tried to get tickets. School said students only. Good. Are you certain you want to do this? I am sure. I am done hiding. March 12th was frigid. I drove to school in my second-hand Tesla. I parked in visitor parking, where I had previously put my beat-up Honda a decade earlier. The facility appeared smaller and older, but the gym, where I had spent 5 years watching Tyler, remained vast. The principal and I met in the lobby. Ryan, it's great to have you back. The same guy who earlier suggested I join student government to improve my college applications, rather than compete in coding competitions. We walked to the auditorium. Full house, he announced. There are 350 students. Some alumni requested to attend. I hope that's okay. Alumni represented possible family. That's fine. The doors opened. 350 teenagers and teachers lined the walls, with standing room only in the back. Samantha, my old English teacher, and 3 rows behind them, Mom, Dad, and Tyler. They'd found a way inside. Of course they did. I walked to the podium and stared out at 350 faces, including 3 in the back who had never looked at me more intensely. My first slide was not my corporate logo. A photo of me at the age of 16. Skinny, awkward, and alone at the cafe with his laptop. This was me, I admitted. I'm in my junior year and working on my first application. It crashed a lot, but I was proud of it. Some students laughed. I showed it to the teacher. He agreed it was interesting, then asked if I had considered basketball instead. Uncomfortable laughing. Next slide. Kennedy Center invitation. 6 years later, I received a national prize. Kennedy Center, Black Tie Press. My most significant professional achievement. Next slide. The auditorium seats are empty. My relatives did not arrive. Basketball game. Silence. Complete silence. I'm not saying this to get pity. I'm telling this because I learned something that night. You can't base your dreams on someone else's approval. I glanced directly at my parents, at Tyler. Some individuals will never honor you the way you deserve. That is okay. Their lack of vision does not define your success. Your work does. I guided them through Vision AI, explaining the users and funding. Forbes' success does not repair damaged relationships. It does not cause those who have previously disregarded you to suddenly notice you. It merely proves that you didn't need them in the first place. Final slide, Forbes 30 Under 30 logo. So if someone urges you to be practical, dismiss them. Celebrate even if no one acknowledges your accomplishment. Because you'll ultimately stop needing their attention. You will have your own. Questions arose. I spent 25 minutes answering questions about code, startups, and failure. Not a single query regarding my family. However, Mom later discovered me in the library reception area. Can we please talk? She appeared tiny, older, tired. I'm working, I explained. Students have questions. After 5 minutes, her voice crackled. Parking lot. In 5 minutes. When I'm done here. I stayed for 25 minutes, answering every student's question, handing out business cards, and then walking to the parking lot. All 3 were waiting beside my Tesla. Nice car, Dad remarked. Bought it myself. We're not here to fight, Mom replied hastily. We just want to talk. I checked my watch. 2 minutes. We were mistaken about the Kennedy Center. Almost anything. Okay. Is that it? Mom, what do you want? You were wrong. Great. Nothing changes. We want to fix this, Dad explained. What has to be fixed? 13 months of silence? You can't change that. It happened. Tyler stepped forward. You are my brother. That must count for something. It mattered when I needed you. Doesn't matter now. So we don't have a chance? Mom's voice cracked. I looked at her and saw the same person who had texted. How did it go? 5 hours after my ceremony. Who has remarked always proud on LinkedIn after years of silence. I don't need you anymore, I stated gently. For 13 months I created something spectacular. Without you. Despite you. And I was pleased. We're your family, Dad explained. No, you are folks I am related to. The family shows up. We failed you, Mom explained. Doesn't that mean something? So we're admitting it? This indicates you can live with yourself. This doesn't mean I have to let you back in. What do we need to do? Mom grasped my arm. Tell me. I will do anything. I examined her hand and then her face. You can't do anything. Because the person who needed you to show up no longer exists. I am not waiting for your approval. I'm one of Forbes's 30 Under 30. I created a life that did not include you. I got into my car and started the engine. Mom stood there crying, Dad's hand on her shoulder. Tyler looked lost. I didn't feel anything. Not satisfied, not vengeance, not sad. Only one thing remains. Closure. I drove away. I didn't look back. That night, Lauren called. So, how was it? Good. Productive. Has your family arrived? Yeah, and I told them the truth. I don't need them anymore. How are you feeling? Light, I said. I feel light. That's good. Yeah, very good. 2 months later, Tyler sent me an email. Subject, no response required. I nearly erased it, but curiosity won. Ryan, I'm not attempting to contact you. I'm only respecting your boundaries. But I started therapy to figure out why I took you for granted. Why I never questioned mom and dad's priorities for me. I was selfish. I knew you were brilliant. I knew mom and dad regarded you like an afterthought, so I did nothing since it benefited me. Your Kennedy Center Award. I remember thinking, he'll understand. It is the championship. I hadn't even considered going to both. I am not asking for forgiveness. I simply wanted to let you know that I finally understand what they, and we all done. You created something amazing, not just your company, but yourself. And we missed it because we didn't look. I apologize. Sincerely, very sorry. Tyler. I reread it 3 times. I saved it in a folder called Closure. It was exactly what I wanted to hear a year ago. But now it simply felt like confirmation. I was correct. They were wrong. And I had moved on. December brought snow, marking 3 years since the Kennedy Center. I decorated my house, which I had purchased with cash 6 months ago. Small tree with nice lights. Christmas morning, I made coffee, sat on my couch, and watched the snow fall. My phone vibrated. Samantha says, "Merry Christmas." Merry Christmas. Are you doing okay? Yeah. Your family seems weird without you. Everyone pretends everything is fine, but it isn't. Not my problem to fix. I understand. I just wanted you to know that you are missed. At least by me. Thank you, Samantha. That means something. We hung up. I opened my laptop and examined the Vision AI metrics, 75,000 users and climbing. There is real influence. Real change. That was my family now. Those users, my crew, Lauren, Michael, Samantha. People who turned up, celebrated, and noticed me. I grinned as I looked at my Christmas tree, small, modest, and uniquely mine. Because this calm morning, in a house I bought, running a business I founded, living a life I designed, was the gift. Not vengeance. Not proving them incorrect. Just freedom. Freedom from waiting. From hoping. From needing folks who never met my needs. I had made something better. One border at a time. Take one day at a time. A life in which I was never treated as an afterthought. Where I was always the central figure. I turned up for me first. My phone remained on the table, silent and peaceful. And I let it be. Because certain silences are not empty, they are filled. Full of self-respect, of limits, of recognizing your worth. And I had never been richer. You're more of an ATM than a son, Dad said. After 16 months of $2,200 payments, I canceled the transfer. 28 days later, the bank called him first. I learned out I wasn't invited to my niece's 9th birthday celebration via Instagram. Amanda had shared a video of Lily blowing out candles while surrounded by cousins, aunts, uncles, and half the neighborhood. Balloons, a bounce house, and a table laden with presents. Everyone was present except for me. I checked my mails. Nothing. No invitation. No. Sorry, we forgot you. I called Amanda. Ryan, hello, what's up? I just seen the party on Instagram. Looks like fun. Pause. Oh yeah. I didn't get an invite. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Limited space and... Amanda. You've got a bounce house. There are 25 persons there. It just turned out this way. Do not make it a thing. Do not make it a thing. Put Dad on. Ryan, put him on. Muffled voices. Then Dad, slightly mumbled from his drinking. Ryan, hello friend, great party. You should see? Why was I not invited? What? It's Lily's birthday, why was I not invited? Oh well, Amanda had to make tough choices. I am her brother. Lily's uncle. Yes, but let us be honest here. You aren't truly family in the sense that matters for these things. Something chilly settled into my chest. What does that mean? It indicates you are more of a resource, a wallet. You aid us when we need it, but you're not truly involved in day-to-day family life. The wallet. Dad, I have been paying your mortgage for 16 months. And we appreciate that, but that doesn't mean you get a say in family events. I could not talk. Look, don't take anything personally. If you help us financially, we can keep the family going. It works. He hung up. 16 months ago, Dad lost his job. The manufacturing plant is closed. At 56, he couldn't find anything comparable to what he was earning. He called me, his voice shaking. Ryan, I'm not sure what to do. The mortgage costs $2,200 each month. I am going to lose my house. The home where Mom died 4 years ago. I'll help, I said quickly. I'll cover it until you get back on your feet. I was earning $68,000 as a software developer. I could make it if I cut back. So I did. Cheaper apartment. No dining out. I drove my 10-year-old Honda into the ground. Every month, $2,200. Direct deposit. Never late. Initially, he would text, "Thank you." Then the updates ceased. Texts become demands. Could you send it earlier this month? Payment is late. I need it by the 3rd. I became an ATM, not a son. My phone vibrated. Aunt Karen sent a text. I'm sorry Karen couldn't make it to the celebration. Lily inquired about you. Lily inquired about me. They did not invite me, but she noticed. I called Karen. Hey Ryan. How are you? Why was I not invited? Oh, well, Amanda had to keep the guest list manageable. Karen, there were 25 people there. Well, yes, but close family. And I'm her brother. Silence. Ryan, we're okay without you around. These events are regarding the core family. You're preoccupied with your own life regardless. We are fine without you. I pay Dad's mortgage, I explained quietly. And we appreciate it. But that doesn't imply you have to attend every family function. When was the last time I got invited to something? Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Amanda's birthday. She didn't respond. What if I stop paying tomorrow? Will I be suddenly invited? That's not fair. Answer the question. Ryan, your father needs the money. You cannot just... So that's a no. If that's how you feel, maybe you shouldn't attend family occasions. We don't need the negative. She hung up. I sat there for a while. Then I opened my banking app and discovered the regular payment of $2,200, which is scheduled for the 1st of each month. I stared at my phone. Another Instagram story. Lily cut the cake. Dad laughs in the background. I'm having a fantastic time at a party I sponsored but wasn't invited to, in a property I'd paid for. While they said I wasn't family, I canceled the recurring payment and texted Dad. Effective immediately. I'm discontinuing mortgage payments. You have 28 days to make alternate arrangements. I blocked his phone number. Amanda's been blocked. Karen's been blocked. I deleted Instagram. I wasn't family. I was only a wallet. And the wallet was closed. The first week seemed unusual. I felt relieved rather than sorry, as I had anticipated to. My bank account suddenly had an additional $2,200. I'd grown accustomed to being broke that having money seemed weird. Jake, a coworker, observed. You seem lighter. Made some changes. Good ones? Time will tell. My phone remained quiet. They probably had not noticed yet. Payment was not due for 3 weeks. On day 8, an unknown number contacted, leaving a voicemail from Amanda on a friend's phone. What the hell, Ryan? Dad says you canceled the payment. You cannot do that. He's about to lose his house. This is insane. I removed it. Another call. Karen, this time with a different phone number. Ryan. This is cruel. Your father is beside himself. Your mother would be ashamed. That is dumb. However, I still erased it. They tried everything. Work numbers, friends' phones, and blocked numbers. Every time, it goes to voicemail. Every time, delete. Being someone's wallet means you only matter when the money stops. On day 12, Dad sent an email that was long, rambling, and contained elements of guilt, anger, and desperate pleading. I reared and nourished you, and now you're repaying me. Your mom would be heartbroken. This house is the final remnant of her. You are taking it away from Lily. How can you be so selfish? I responded with one line. You said I wasn't family. I am simply a wallet. The wallet is closed. His response came quickly. I didn't mean it that way. I was drinking. You're being sensitive. Sensitive. Mom used the same word when I pointed out how differently they treated me and Amanda. I did not respond. On day 13, they went nuclear. A Facebook post by Amanda, public. Some people put money before family. My brother Ryan has decided to cease assisting our father. Dad is ready to lose his house, the place our mother died in, because Ryan is upset about not being invited to one party. Here's what selfishness looks like. Comments came in. How horrible. Your poor father. Aunt Karen shared it. Heartbroken. Family should help family, not desert them due to hurt feelings. No mention of 16 months of payments, $35,000, or merely a wallet. Jake saw it. I called immediately. Is this real, dude? Yeah. You've been paying his mortgage for 16 months, and they didn't invite you to a birthday party, among other things. Would you like me to comment? Set the record straight? No, let them have their story. Everyone thinks you're the bad guy. Everyone who matters already knew I was invisible. On day 20, a registered letter arrived from a lawyer. Dad threatened to sue for breach of verbal contract. I called the number. Henderson and Cole Law Offices. I received a cease and desist regarding Ryan Bennett. Ah, yes. Your father claims that you made a binding pledge. Do you have anything written? No. Then there is no contract. You were assisting. You're going to stop. That is your right. Silence. I'll relay your response. The letter landed in the garbage. Day 26. Payment was due in 2 days. My phone rang nonstop. Unknown numerals. All hours. The voicemails became desperate. Amanda. Lily is crying. She does not want Grandpa to lose his home. Do you truly want to be the uncle who did this? Dad, I apologize. Okay. I apologize for what I said. Please. The bank is calling. Please, Ryan. Sorry about what I said. Not, I was wrong. Just apologizing. He spoke the silent portion aloud. I removed it. Day 28. I awoke to 14 missed calls. I made coffee, went to work. At 10:45 a.m., my inbox chimed with a snapshot of a message attached to Dad's door. Notice of default. Foreclosure procedures will begin in 28 days. A text message from an unknown number appeared below it. Are you happy now? I stared at the photo for a long time, thinking about 16 months of payments, being labeled a wallet, and being excluded while I kept their life going. I typed the word yes and blocked the number. I was done apologizing for setting boundaries. I'm done apologizing for refusing to be used. Their emergency was no longer my concern. I was finally free. The foreclosure notification granted them 28 days. I gave them silence. No responses, no bargaining, no second chances. For the first time in 16 months, I began living my own life. The extra $2,200 per month was like inhaling after being submerged. I moved into a better apartment with 1 bedroom, natural light, and a dishwasher. I bought new garments that did not come from the bargain rack. I went out to dinner without checking my financial account first. These were minor details, yet they had a significant impact. Jake sensed a change. You look different, happier. I feel lighter, like I've been carrying something heavy and finally put it down. Is there any word from them? They keep trying. Every day brings new numbers. I block them all. Do you feel guilty? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No. I feel free. 3 weeks following the foreclosure notice, the harassment escalated. My work email. Someone had found it. Amanda. Ryan, I am emailing because you have banned everything else. Please. Dad is desperate. The bank has threatened eviction. We have 3 weeks. Lily doesn't understand why Uncle Ryan isn't helping Grandpa anymore. She cries every night. Is this truly who you want to be? I forwarded it to HR and described the circumstances. They prohibited all external emails from her address. Then Dad sent me a letter via physical mail to my new residence. Handwritten. Ryan, I am begging you. I was mistaken. I uttered some nasty things. I took you for granted. I apologize. Please don't let my blunders ruin anything. This is your mom's residence. Her memory. Please. I read it once and then stored it in a drawer. Nor discarded, nor responded. Simply stored. Perhaps there is some evidence. Or closure. I wasn't certain yet. Things started to go weird around the 5th week. An unknown number called. I was ready to decline when something compelled me to answer. Ryan, it's Lily. My niece. 9 years old. On the phone. My heart has stopped. Lily, how did you... I took Mom's phone. She does not know. Her voice was small and terrified. Uncle Ryan, why don't you help Grandpa? Did I do something wrong? The guilt struck like a truck. No, Lily. You did not do anything wrong. Then why? Mom claims you're being mean. That you no longer care about your family. I closed my eyes. Of course, they had militarized her. Lily, this is complicated. It's adult stuff between me and your grandfather. But he is about to lose his home. Mom believes it is your fault. Did your mother tell you why? She said you're mad about my birthday party, that you're upset you weren't invited. Did she tell you I had been paying Grandpa's mortgage for a year and 4 months? Silence. What is a mortgage? The money is for the house. I've been paying so Grandpa can continue to live there. Have you? Yeah. $2,200 per month. That's a lot. It is. And do you know what Grandpa told me? He said I wasn't actually family, that I am just a wallet. Do you understand what that means? A wallet is where you keep money. Right, he stated I am just good for money, not for a birthday, Christmas or Thanksgiving. Just money. That's mean. It was. And it stung. So I stopped paying. Lily was silent back then. I apologize, Uncle Ryan. I didn't know. It is not your fault, sweetheart. None of this is your fault. I wanted you to attend my party. I asked Mom why you weren't present. She said you were busy. My chest tightened. I was not busy. I was not invited. That's not fair. No, it's not. I'm sorry. Thank you, Lily. That means a lot. Could you help Grandpa anyway? Even if he was mean. I exhaled. Lily, sometimes grown-ups have to make difficult decisions. Your grandpa needs to figure this out himself. She sniffled. Okay. I love you, Uncle Ryan. I love you too, Lily. She hung up. I sat there feeling like the worst person ever. Not because I was wrong, but because they had placed a 9-year-old in the middle of it. Amanda called again 4 minutes later, using the same number. I responded. How dare you? Her voice trembled with wrath. How dare you tell Lily that Dad referred to you as a wallet? She's 9 years old. You got her on the phone, Amanda. You are the one using her as a weapon. She wants to speak to you. You told her it was my fault her grandfather was losing his home. You put that burden on a 9-year-old. It's your fault. You're the one that stopped paying after 16 months of being excluded from everything, while keeping our life going. After Dad literally told you you are not family. He didn't mean it. He meant every word. Aunt Karen did as well. So did you. When you didn't ask me to Lily's party. One party? Ryan, you are killing our family over a single party. It was not a single party. It was at every party, holiday and family gathering for years. I simply didn't notice since I was too busy being your ATM. She was crying now. We need the money. Dad needs it. Please. Amanda, you don't need money. You should work out your own life. In 3 weeks. We have 3 weeks before the bank takes the house. Then you better spend those 3 weeks figuring it out instead of calling me. I hung up. I've also blocked that number. The next day, Jake called me. Dude, you need to see this. He provided me a link. There's a GoFundMe. Help save a family's home. Amanda's name. Dad's photo. The house. My father is a dedicated man who lost his job due to circumstances beyond his control. He is striving to maintain the family home where his late wife lived and where his granddaughter celebrates birthdays. The bank is threatening to foreclose. We're appealing for your aid to preserving this important family memory. Goal, $22,000. Current amount raised, $320. I read the description. There was no mention of 16 months of payments from me. There was no mention of the $35,000 I had already provided them. A hard-working man as well as struggling family. The comments drew me in. Praying for you. Family is everything. I gave what I could. God bless. I showed Jake. They're crowdfunding without mentioning you paid for a year and 4 months. Certainly not. That does not match their story. Do you intend to comment? Set the record straight? I thought about it. About disclosing everything, including receipts, bank statements, and even screenshots of a single wallet. Then I remembered what my mother used to say. The truth does not have to be loud. It simply needs to be true. No, I replied. Let them raise their money, you're not. In any case, that was not my problem. The GoFundMe campaign gathered traction within their church community. By the end of the week, they had raised $3,200 out of a total of $22,000 needed. With 1 week to foreclosure, I saw the number progressively increase. I watched the comments of support. Amanda shared updates, thanking everyone for their contributions. It was not going to be enough. Not even close. And it was no longer my problem. Then, 2 days before the foreclosure date, something unexpected occurred. A message request on LinkedIn from Melissa Reed. I didn't recognize the name, but something about Reed caught my attention. I opened it. Hello Ryan. You don't know me, but I am your father's cousin. I live in Portland. I learned about the house predicament through family gossip. Can we speak? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I accepted the request and said, sure. Melissa was in her mid-50s, dressed professionally, and had gentle eyes that reminded me of my mother. Thank you for meeting me, she replied. I understand this must seem unusual. I have never heard Dad mention you. We aren't close. I haven't been for years. There was a disagreement. She stirred the coffee. Ryan, I'd want to hear your perspective. I have heard the family version. I'd want to hear yours. So I told her everything, the 16-month payment plan, the birthday party, the just a wallet chat, Aunt Karen's we're fine without you, the harassment, and Lily's phone call. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she gave a hesitant nod. That sounds exactly like my cousin Thomas and his sister Karen. Are you not surprised? Not even a little. They did something similar to me 18 years ago. Borrowed funds for a business venture. Promised to repay me. When I sought for it after 2 years, they accused me of being greedy and not supporting my family. I never saw a penny. How much? $13,000. Back then that was all I had saved. I felt something settle. Validation. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Was not cruel. I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry it's happening to you, she said. She took out her phone. I noticed the GoFundMe. Read the description. They left out some important details. They left out all the details. I figured. Ryan, I'd want to ask you a question, and I want you to be honest. Do you want them to lose their house? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I do not want Lily to suffer. But Dad, Amanda and Karen need to realize that people are not ATMs. That you cannot treat someone as garbage and expect them to continue giving. That's fair, she remarked with a small smile. For what it's worth, I believe you did the correct thing. Setting boundaries is not unkind. It is healthy. Tell that to the Facebook comments. Facebook comments are left by persons who do not know the whole issue. You know the truth. That is what matters. We talked for another hour, about family, limits, and going forward. When we stood up to depart, she hugged me. If you need anything, someone to talk to, someone who understands, call me. You are not alone. Driving home I felt lighter than I had in weeks. Melissa didn't solve anything, she simply made someone understand. The following day was the foreclosure deadline. I awoke and checked my phone. There are no calls or texts, just silence. The GoFundMe had raised $5,400. Not enough. Not even close. My doorbell rang at 2:30 p.m. I opened it and found Aunt Karen standing there. Ryan, we need to talk. I glanced at Aunt Karen on my porch. She appeared exhausted, with little makeup on, her hair pulled back messily, and a crumpled sweatshirt. Can I come inside? No. Ryan, please. 4 minutes. 3 minutes. Right here. The foreclosure is today at 2:30. We are $5,000 short. Please. That's all we need. No. Ryan, you said you were okay without me. That I was not part of the main family. Why would you want money from someone who isn't related? I was angry. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. For years. Her eyes flooded with tears. One remark at a party. Are you going to destroy his life over this? It was not a single comment. It was 16 months of being treated like an ATM, and excluded from everything. We thought you were busy. You thought I was convenient. There when you needed money, invisible when you didn't. Please, I plead. 5,000. I will pay you back. I do not want your money. I want you to understand that people are not wallets. Are you just going to let him lose everything? No, you are. Because you spent a month harassing me rather than finding solutions. She stood there, crying. I hope you can live with yourself. I can. Can you? She departed. My hand shook as I closed the door. Not from guilt, but from finally establishing a barrier. At 2:45 p.m., my phone vibrated. Unknown number. I'm crying on the other end. Then Dad's voice. They took it. The house. It's gone. I said nothing. Ryan, please. We can solve this if you just. No. I'm your father. You are the man who called me a wallet. Who told me I'm not family? I was inebriated. I am sorry. You're sorry you said it out loud, not that you meant it. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. But that is no longer my problem. I hung up. I blocked the number. Then I opened a bottle of decent wine and felt no remorse. Melissa sent me a message 2 weeks later. I saw on Facebook that Amanda is hosting a new start party this weekend. I thought you should know. A party? Of course. Can you send me the address on time? She sent it within an hour. Saturday at 2 p.m., family festivity, new beginnings. Melissa informed me that Dad had purchased a new car 3 months ago, which he had financed at an absurdly high interest rate. Could not afford the payments. The repossession company was looking for it. Dad had hidden it at Amanda's. On Saturday, that repo vehicle was supposed to show up. I didn't cause it, I just knew it was coming. And I made sure I got a front row seat. Saturday at 1:45 p.m., I parked down the street, far enough to remain hidden but close enough to observe everything. Cars lined the driveway. Balloons on the mailbox. People are walking in carrying dishes. At 2:47 p.m., a flatbed tow truck entered the roadway. I sat up straighter. The truck arrived at Amanda's residence. The driver examined his tablet, then stepped out and knocked. Amanda answered. Her face changed from friendly to scared. She made a call inside. Dad appeared and started yelling. People came out. The party ended. The driver displayed papers. Dad attempted to block the automobile. Amanda was on the phone. Karen came out yelling. The motorist didn't care, he had documentation. Dad's black Charger, the one he bought to feel youthful, began rolling onto the flatbed. Dad attempted to stop it. Couldn't. Just stood there as his car drove away in front of everyone at their fresh start gathering. Amanda was crying. Karen was yelling. Dad seemed defeated. Partygoers began leaving rapidly and awkwardly. Some people filmed with their phones. By dinner time this would have gone viral on Facebook. The truck pulled away. Guests scattered. I saw Amanda standing in her empty driveway, looking devastated. I started the car and headed home. Jake called an hour later. Have you seen Facebook? No. What happened? This is your sister's celebration. The repossession vehicle stole your father's car, in the middle of the party. It's everywhere. Wow. Ryan, did you know? I knew it was being repossessed. Not exactly when. That's savage. That's consequences. People commented, asking why he had a new automobile when he couldn't afford his mortgage. Good. Let them ask. That night, videos surfaced from various angles. The remarks shifted. Wait, he purchased a new car? If he couldn't afford his mortgage, why would he finance a Charger? Something does not add up. Amanda posted. My father is going through a difficult period. Please respect our privacy. But the questions kept coming. Where is Ryan? Haven't seen him at family events. Didn't Ryan aid them financially? The story was cracking, I did not make a comment. They did not explain, just watched. Melissa sent a text on Sunday morning. Your father is currently raising money for the car. Another GoFundMe. I looked it up. Help Thomas reclaim his car. Wrongful repossession. Goal, $7,000. The amount raised is $0. Comments. Haven't you just lost your house? If Ryan paid your mortgage, where did the money go? Why is this family constantly asking for handouts? The truth was out. Not because I said it, but because they couldn't get their story straight. I closed the application. I blocked Facebook. I did not need to see it anymore. I made my point without saying anything. Finally, I was free. 3 weeks after the repo truck event, my life had returned to something approximating serenity. No more calls from unknown numbers. No more desperate emails. No more family members are coming up at my door. They had finally received the message. I had started treatment. I did not feel guilty, but Jake said it would help me digest everything. Dr. Ellis was in her 50s, with kind eyes and no tolerance for BS. So your family treated you like an ATM for 16 months, she explained during our third session. And when you stopped paying, they made you the villain. Pretty much. How does this make you feel? Free, is that wrong? She smiled. Not at all. Setting boundaries is not unkind. It is healthy. Working conditions improved as well. Without the continual stress of paying someone else's mortgage, I could concentrate. Was promoted to senior developer. There was also a raise. Jake brought me out to celebrate. Look at you. New apartment, promotion, and actual savings. You're thriving. Feels weird, like I'm waiting for something to go wrong. That's known as trauma response. You spent 16 months on survival mode. It takes time to adjust to stability. On Saturday morning, my doorbell rang. I checked the peephole and saw Lily with a woman I didn't recognize. I opened the door. "Hey, Uncle Ryan." Lily's face brightened up. The woman stepped forward. "Hello, this is Hannah Lewis, Amanda's buddy. Lily requested me to bring her." She was insistent. "That's okay. Come in." Hannah waited in the car. Lily looked to me with determination. "I needed to see you." "Does your mother know you are here?" "No, she'd be upset, but I don't mind." I sat across from her. "What's going on, Lily?" "I apologize for everything. For what they told you. For manipulating me to make you unhappy. Lily, you are 9. None of this is your fault. But I was mean to you on the phone." Hannah told me what really happened. How you paid for Grandpa's house, how they didn't invite you to my party, how Grandpa called you a wallet. "Lily, your grandfather and your mother made decisions. These choices had effects. That is not abandonment. Rather, it is a set of boundaries." "What are the boundaries?" "It's when you decide what you will and won't accept from people. Even family." She nodded slowly. "That makes sense. Can I still see you if Mom says no?" My chest tightened. "Lily, I don't want to make things harder for you at home. It is already hard. Mom and Grandpa are fighting all the time now. About money, about the house. About you." She looked at me with eyes that were much older than 9. "Mom says you are the reason everything went apart. But I believe things were always falling apart. You simply quit holding it together. From the mouths of children. Do you know you're pretty smart?" She smiled. "Can we do something? Just us. Like, grab ice cream?" "Okay. But I'll text your mother afterwards so she knows where you are." "She's going to yell probably, but that's on me, not you." We spent an hour at the ice cream shop near my place. We simply talked about school, her classmates, and her drawings. Before she departed, Lily hugged me. "Thank you for not giving up on me." "I could never give up on you, kid." After they had left, I texted Amanda. "Lily came to see me today. She is safe. She wanted to talk. I am open to discussing boundaries for future interaction." She responded an hour later. "How dare you see her behind my back? Stay away from my daughter." I did not respond. I just shared the message to Hannah with a note. "Thank you for bringing her. Please let me know if Lily needs anything." 8 months later, my life had drastically changed. New flat with 2 bedrooms presently. Better vehicle, actual savings account. I dated. Nothing serious, but I was open to it. It turns out that when you're not financially and emotionally tired, you have more energy for others. Lily and I texted periodically. Amanda disliked it, but she had given up trying to avoid it. Dad had moved in with Amanda. Melissa described the situation as heated, with a lot of squabbling over money. I met Karen at the grocery store one day. We established eye contact. She hurriedly glanced away, grabbed her cart, and fled. There was no confrontation, no apologies, just avoidance. And that was okay. I didn't need her apologies. I had already moved on. Jake and I went to dinner one Friday. "You know what is wild?" he stated. "1 year ago you were broke, stressed, and unhappy. Now look at you. The best decision I've ever made was to cut them off. Setting boundaries. There is a difference." He raised his glass. "To boundaries. To boundaries," I repeated. That night, I received a text from an unknown number. "Hi Ryan. This is Dad. I know you have blocked me, therefore I am using a friend's phone. I wanted to apologize. I sincerely apologize. For everything. You were correct. I took you for granted. They treated you like a pocketbook. I was wrong." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond and accept the apologies. But another part, which had learnt that people do not change just because they apologize, knew better. I sent one message. "I appreciate your apology, but I am not ready to restore this relationship. Maybe someday, but not today." I pressed send. Then I blocked that number too. Because forgiveness does not imply reconciliation. And boundaries do not make you cruel. They make you healthy. 3 years after I quit paying Dad's mortgage, I purchased my first home. Nothing large. 4 bedrooms and a decent yard. I held a housewarming party. Jake arrived. Melissa arrived. Hannah brought Lily with Amanda's consent. Surprisingly, some co-workers and new acquaintances knew me for who I was rather than what I could supply. Jake made a toast. To Ryan, who realized that the best investment isn't in other people's homes. It is within yourself. Everyone cheered. Lily drew me aside. I'm proud of you, Uncle Ryan. Thank you, youngster. I'm proud of you too. For what? For being courageous enough to seek the truth. I learned that from you. You taught me that sometimes stepping away is the most powerful thing you can do. I looked at this now 11-year-old, who had figured out what it had taken me 30 years to master. You're going to be fine, Lily. Better than okay. So are you. And you know what? She was correct. Because I had ceased being a wallet and became a person. And it made all the difference. After paying their mortgage for years, my sister showed up with a can of red paint to ruin my wedding. Now she's claiming my house is hers. They sued me. For the house I paid for. For the dog they abandoned. For hurting the family. But this time, the judge heard my voice. I was urged by my parents to spend the holidays at home. They left me to dogs it while they went on a lavish vacation without me after a 5-hour journey. I refrained from arguing. I simply grinned. However, they began to scream when they returned and witnessed this. Let's go back. I received the first text in early December. This year, will you be returning home? It would mean a lot to your dad and me, she continued. Then came the one that really got to me. Without you, the holidays aren't the same. I spent a lot of time staring at that one. It was the type of message I had been hoping for years, a statement I had practiced hearing so many times that I didn't even question it when it finally arrived in my inbox. I grinned. The work had been harsh. There weren't enough people on my team. My sleep routine had changed to include naps in between Zoom sessions. However, I reminded myself, they miss you. They asked for you. So I did what I don't often do. I took a break. I cleared 5 complete days, but it took a whole week of arguing with my manager, changing deadlines, and promising to check in just in case. I purchased a ticket. I even brought along a couple modest presents. I hoped we would actually converse, play board games, and laugh at corny holiday films. It was a lengthy and painful flight. Something that smelled like hot cheese-dipped feet was consumed by my seatmate. I didn't care though. The kind of foolish optimism that endures years of disregard and yet appears with a bow on its head was buzzing through me. With my suitcase in hand and a smile on my face, I got out of the Uber. At that moment, I witnessed my dad's car's trunk opening and 3 big suitcases being crammed inside. I had a fleeting feeling that they could surprise me. Perhaps we were traveling together. This might have been part of the idea. I was witnessing my holiday fantasy evaporate in real time, but then my mom saw me and waved happily. When she called, there she is. Just in time. I blinked. Just in time for what? She stated, the cruise, as though it were clear. We didn't want to leave Bentley alone. She pointed to the dog, who was standing behind the front door, watching me. I believed I had misheard. You're going on a cruise? My dad said, just a quick getaway. And slammed the trunk. We've had a stressful year. Josh, who was in the passenger seat, smiled at me. You'll be fine here. You love quiet. This is perfect for you. He said it as if I were a robot or a rice cooker, something made especially to work in silence. My mother gave me a folded list called Bentley's holiday routine while I stood there still holding my suitcase. It contained items such as, rub his ears clockwise, not counterclockwise, and lavender diffuser at 8 p.m. I said nothing at all. I simply grinned and nodded, as I always do when I'm trying not to cry. Already preoccupied, they gave me a quick embrace. I was reminded by my mother to keep Bentley from eating cheese. I was instructed to pick up a delivery that was supposed to happen on Wednesday by my dad. After that, they got into their vehicle and drove off. Nobody inquired about my flight experience. Nobody asked me to accompany them. Nobody even inquired about my meal. And suddenly I was by myself. At a home that I own. I haven't lived with a dog in years, but I officially adopted him since I couldn't refuse my younger brother's request. I secured the door. Bentley crouched at my feet, tail wagging unsurely as he patted over. Whispering, "Hi, buddy." I knelt down to stroke him. He had the stench of wet socks and dirty comforters. He appeared leaner than I remembered, and his fur was coarse. He had no water in his bowl. He had 2 long nails. And something twisted inside of me. I sat down on the couch, filled his drink, removed the food they had left, and gazed at the flickering Christmas lights as if they were about to rearrange themselves into an apology. However, nothing took place. There was silence in the house. The heat turned on. Bentley balled himself up. I had a strong belief that this year will be different. That perhaps they were at last prepared to see me as their daughter, not just as the one who sends the money when the car breaks down or the kitchen renovation goes over budget. Their sister. I was mistaken. I felt foolish for ever holding that belief. For always believing that they would eventually find me worthy of staying at home if I put in enough effort, achieved enough success, or proved myself helpful enough. Rather, they viewed me as an easy fix. Dog care is free. As well as integrated home security. On-time arrival of their own tiny robot. I made an effort to shake it off. That was what I had done all my life. Making justifications for them. Not personal, I told myself. Because it was simply difficult to love me. That perhaps if I made a few more changes. I tried not to cry as I rubbed my temples. The scent of candle wax and cinnamon filled the air. There were decorations all around me that I hadn't hung. They didn't thank me for paying off the house. Watching a dog that they no longer cared for as soon as the novelty wore off. What's the worst? I still desired a call from them. Even so, I wanted them to reverse the vehicle and say, "We're sorry. We didn't realize. We love you. Please come with us." However, they refused. They didn't. Bentley sighed quietly as he slept. After giving him a long look, I went to the kitchen and turned on my laptop. Really, I had no idea what I was looking for, but I was certain that I couldn't continue to act as though this was the norm. Since it wasn't. And perhaps, just possibly, I had had enough of waiting for someone else to notice. Bentley cuddled himself on the couch beside me, putting his weight on my leg as if it would help me stay attached. He smelled of old shoes and melancholy, and his fur was patchy and matted. I didn't mind though. The only one who hadn't gone was him. No one came out to say, "Surprise? We didn't actually abandon you, we were just kidding, we do love you." I continued to stare at the empty living room as if I was still expecting for someone to do so. I had no idea why it struck so forcefully. Perhaps because I had persuaded myself that I was more important than I actually was. That they would ultimately regard me as more than just the girl who paid for things if I simply continued to provide. Perhaps as someone they desired to be around. I always believed that they would let me in if I could simply correct whatever was wrong with me. Growing up, I assumed that. That something about me must be flawed. There was a missing component that caused folks to shrug rather than embrace. It was me who was strange. The silent one. The girl who color-coded her books, who enjoyed creating Excel spreadsheets, and who liked math problems more than makeup. When I was 10 years old, my mother half-jokingly remarked, "You weren't the easiest child to bond with." Everyone said that my brothers' taunting of me was simply an expression of their affection. They said I was overly sensitive when I sobbed. So I stopped crying. That also didn't help. On one of my birthdays, I believe I was 8 years old, they threw me a party. I was ecstatic. My brothers even claimed to have invited the kids from the neighborhood. I brought out cupcakes that I had prepared myself and donned my finest clothes. However, there were no individuals in the yard when I arrived. Just a sheet of paper with arithmetic problems and numbers on it taped to the fence. Josh had chuckled and said, "Your kind of party." After that, they all hurried to another person's house for the actual party. I spent hours sitting on the porch steps. Even the equations were solved by me. Perhaps it was the secret, I thought. Perhaps they would return if I figured them all out. They didn't. I believed that I could fit in better by high school. I made an effort to chuckle when appropriate. Despite the fact that the garments didn't feel like mine, I borrowed them from Dorothy. In order to avoid looking strange, I practiced smiling in front of the mirror and joined clubs that I didn't care about. I was still referred to as intense, aloof, and somewhat robotic. I once heard Dorothy say, "You're not ugly." I tried to learn how to act like a real girl, but you simply don't know how. Even so, I was the one who was overlooked for the invitation. The person who solely received thank you texts in response to Venmo requests. The person who was often told, "You're just really hard to get close to." My parents did not attend my graduation, saying, "We're proud of you, honey, but just don't let it go to your head." I was accepted to an Ivy League school. They claimed that plane tickets were too costly. Until I saw pictures from Josh's birthday vacation to Cabo that same week, I thought they were real. They simply had a stronger bond with him, I told myself. That it wasn't intimate. That they would start seeing me if I could simply be more of anything. I received my degree. I was hired. Whenever they requested money, I sent it. The mortgage on the home they occupied was paid by me. In fact, I assisted Dorothy during her divorce. Perhaps, I reasoned, charity could take the place of intimacy. Perhaps if I put enough effort into them, I would ultimately make up the difference. However, if someone has chosen not to love you, no amount of offering can change that. I finally felt it. Not anger, nor even betrayal, as Bentley shored against my hip while I sat on that couch. Only a faint, sluggish realization. In their lives, I served as a stand-in. A human-sized financial strategy. And I felt like the world's most stupid person because I ever believed I could be greater. I surveyed the mess they had left behind. There is food on the counters. Soiled dishes. Boxes that are not fully packed. Even when I was returning home for the first time in a year, they seemed unconcerned about keeping the property tidy. Because I wasn't truly a guest in their eyes. The assistant was me. The accountable one. The integrated safety net. Bentley appeared thinner than I had recalled. His water bowl smells strange, and his nails were too long. He gave a small whine when I knelt down to scratch behind his ears, as if he had been waiting weeks for someone to notice him. My head was leaning on the wall. Perhaps I was the issue after all. I could be difficult to adore. Too silent. Too weird. Too clinical. In an attempt to identify the exact moment I became invisible, I relived every interaction I had ever had with my family. Perhaps I shouldn't have gone. Perhaps my success made me conceited. Perhaps I gave up trying. Or perhaps they made no attempt at all. I formerly believed that setting limits was a sign of selfishness, because the only ones who said no were those who were unkind. That sacrifice was necessary for love, especially when it was painful. Now, though, I just feel small now. And worn out. And finished. As I got up, Bentley groaned softly. I filled his bowl with new water and offered him a treat I had discovered in the pantry. I then went to open my laptop at the kitchen table. I just knew that something had finally changed inside of me, but I had no idea what I was doing. Not broken, not detonated, simply moved. I spent a considerable amount of time looking at the search results after typing, "What to do if a family lives in your house rent-free." I wasn't sure if I would actually follow through on anything. My sense of authority was lacking. I was not feeling smart. I simply felt finished. Let them say I overreacted and was aloof. Let them express themselves as they see fit. They had it already. Bentley pressed his nose against my palm. After giving him a gentle head rub, I muttered, "If there's something wrong with me, at least I'm finally doing something about it." In one of the articles, I hit print. Slowly, as if unsure too, the paper slipped off the tray. It was a Sunday evening when they returned. I remained there. Due to a family emergency, my supervisor let me work from home. Bentley sprung out of his dog bed and gave a bark that was more startled than happy, so I knew exactly when the car pulled into the driveway. My heart was racing more than I wanted to acknowledge as I remained motionless in the corridor. It was like hearing an alarm in a once secure area. The car door slammed. Loud, familiar, reckless voices. "I told you she'd be fine," my mother said. "She loves quiet time." "She probably reorganized the pantry for fun," said Josh. More giggling, I remained motionless. Through the peephole, I observed. The first person to notice was Dorothy. She pulled once more after jiggling the handle. I pictured the gradual boil of entitlement building as her brows knotted in perplexity. "Why is the door locked?" Dad gave his key a try. "Nothing." Josh took the next step and attempted to shoulder it. I snatched Bentley up before he could become even more agitated when he barked once more, louder this time. My arm shook a little, but not because I was afraid. Another stuff. Something more subdued. Final. Then there was a knock. "Nicole, open up." The lock jammed. Bentley and I sat on the couch as I caressed his ears. One more knock. Then it was more difficult. Then the beating of fists. "Nicole, what the hell? Did you change the locks?" I didn't respond. I had. I changed the locks 3 days after they departed. I was practical, not angry, though I had plenty of emotion. The home was in disarray. Bentley had been left behind. Damage was evident in several of the rooms. Doors were not locked. Trash that is overflowing. I had every right to safeguard the house because I was the rightful owner. Before taking any action, I spoke with a lawyer. They returned with the expectation that everything would still center on them. "You can't do this, this is our house," cried Dorothy. The floodgates opened at that point. "Nicole, open this damn door right now. We trusted you with the dog and the house, and you don't get to just lock us out like some kind of..." It's not solely yours, however, it was. It has been all along. This place was intended to be transitory when I purchased it 6 years ago. A backup plan. While they were living here, I paid the mortgage until they were able to support themselves again. They never departed, for some reason. In their imaginations, the house somehow became theirs. And I turned into some kind landlord who owed them regular revenue and silence. Slowly, I got to my feet. My hands were shaking, but not in the same way. Fear wasn't the reason. Adrenaline was the cause. My decision is being followed by my body. I approached the front door but chose not to open it. I only used the closed frame to speak. I stated, "I secured the property," in a firm voice. "You left it in poor condition. Bentley was neglected. The house was unlocked. I spoke with a lawyer." Quiet. Then, loud and furious, "Dorothy. You're insane. You can't just change the locks because you feel like it." "I didn't feel like it," I answered. "I'm the legal owner, and I did what was necessary to protect my home." Josh began shouting that he was going to sue me. When Dad suggested that we skip church for my math competition, his voice soared to a level I hadn't heard since I was 15. "You ungrateful brat. After everything we've done for you." I chuckled. I didn't intend to. I was shocked by the sudden, piercing, breathless sound that came out. I said again, "Everything you've done for me? You mean the financial black hole? Free babysitting? Or did you joke about leaving me alone with arithmetic problems at the birthday party?" More shouting. I turned to leave. I informed my lawyer over the phone that they had arrived. She instructed them not to open the door and to inform them that any correspondence should henceforth be sent through her office. Josh then tried to pry open the kitchen window by going around the side. From the porch, Dorothy let out a shriek. The neighbors could hear my mom sobbing as she stood in the yard. Incredulous that the waitress had just given him the bill, my dad paced. I made a police call. I gave the deed, pictures of the house's condition, and the veterinarian's report from Bentley's examination to the authorities when they got there. The cops were composed and competent. They turned to my dad, one of them. "Sir, she owns the house. There's no lease agreement. She has every legal right to secure the property." My mother sobbed. "You're just going to let her do this to us?" According to the officer, she hasn't done anything illegal. Nobody stood up for my family, for once. Nobody made me the antagonist by twisting the narrative. There were no jokes about me or pitying glances. Just the facts. Just limits. Just hearing me out. The police suggested that they depart and allow any disagreements to be resolved through official legal procedures. My family was astonished, incensed, and embarrassed as they stood there, but they eventually departed. Their car backed out of the driveway, and I watched from the window. I was flipped off from the passenger seat by Dorothy as she turned. Josh yelled something that I was unable to hear. My mother didn't turn around. And I didn't feel like the one left behind for the first time in my life. Uncomfortably, Bentley climbed into my lap, grounding me with his weight. Whispering, "I think we're going to be okay," I said. I had always hoped that they would accept me if I simply repaired myself. That they would notice me if I put forth enough effort, smiled enough, and contributed enough. But I didn't need to be fixed. Perhaps I wasn't broken because I was the quiet one. It might have made me mine. I refrained from crying. I might, I thought, but no tears remained. Just a strong, throbbing feeling of something else, power, calm, release. I no longer felt wounded or angry, just finished. And that can be stronger than anger at times. That should be the end of it, I thought. However, when entitlement has been their love language for decades, individuals like my family don't lose quietly. After they went, I began getting emails 3 days later. My dad came last, followed by my mother and sister. Confusion gave way to anger and then to desperate manipulation. "You've embarrassed us? We don't understand why you're doing this. You're being dramatic, Nicole. This isn't like you." And lastly, Dorothy's icing on the cake. "You seriously need help." I didn't answer. I sent all of this to my lawyer. The escalation followed. Assuming I would be away, they attempted to break in once more, this time in the middle of the night. The security video captured Josh and my dad attempting to force the back door with a crowbar as the motion sensor lights turned on. Once more, the police arrived. Thanks for watching and sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next drama-filled episode. Dad cheated while Mom was dying. "Say a few words, son," he said at his wedding toast. I did, and burned his fairy tale to the ground. He called me a disgrace, so I raised my glass and told the truth. By the time I finished, his best man dropped his drink, and the bride screamed. The mess began at that moment. My father labeled me ashamed for failing to toast his new bride during the wedding. I got up, held out my glass, and stated, Here's to the woman who was sleeping with my dad while mom was dying. His best man's champagne fell to the floor. His bride let out a shriek. The priest left after what transpired. Laughter, clinking glasses, and the hum of an expensive live band playing a gentle love tune filled the ballroom of the Fairmont Hotel in downtown Chicago. Everything about the scene was tastefully done: golden candlesticks, white floral centerpieces, and cleanly folded linen napkins next to plates that likely cost more than my rent. This wedding screamed money in every way. It was ostentatious, absurd, and, to be honest, offensive. My dish was practically untouched, and my whiskey glass was half empty when I sat at a round table close to the front. Stephanie, my sister, sat next to me, picking nervously at the navy blue dress cloth. Quietly, "You okay?" she inquired. I let out a breath through my nose. Peachy. The man of the hour, our father Richard Holloway, was standing close to the dance floor, grinning as if he hadn't set our family on fire, and her eyes shot to him. He wrapped his hand firmly around the waist of his new bride, Veronica, who had been his wife for a long time before my mother died. I gripped my glass more tightly. This isn't where I should be. I didn't plan on attending. I had thrown the thick, gorgeous, gold-embossed cardboard invitation straight into the garbage when it came. I made no hesitation at all. Then I got a call from Stephanie. "Alex, please," she had pleaded in a broken voice over the phone. "I know you hate him. I do too. But I can't do this alone." I squeezed the bridge of my nose and sighed. "You really want to sit through Dad marrying her?" "No," she said. "But if I have to suffer through it, I want you there with me." Suddenly, I found myself sitting in a rigid chair at an unnecessary wedding on a plane headed back to Chicago, watching my father play happily ever after with the woman who had contributed to the dissolution of my family. The worst thing? The visitors were enjoying it immensely. Richard was a man of respect to them. A well-known attorney. A loving father. A widower in mourning who had fallen in love once more. Bullshit. The truth was unknown to them. They were unaware that my father was surreptitiously moving with Veronica behind her back while my mother, Martha Holloway, was dying of ovarian cancer and was hardly able to raise her head off a pillow. And here we are now. Stephanie said next to me, "Are you drinking that or just staring at it?" My fingers were still wrapped around my whiskey glass when I blinked. Allowing the burn to settle in my throat, I took a slow drink. "Both," I said sourly. She gave a low chuckle, but her face was still strained. "I don't know how you're keeping it together right now." "Who says I am?" Throughout the night, I could sense my father's eyes straying in my direction. He didn't want me here, and I knew it. He was trying to paint the ideal picture, but I wasn't in it. However, Stephanie had persisted, and he had reluctantly invited me, presumably thinking I would say no. He ought to have been extremely fortunate. I was about to order another drink when my father did something that would end his life. His glass clicked. There was silence throughout the ballroom. With that endearing, well-practiced smile that he always wore in courtrooms and country clubs, Richard cleared his throat. "First off, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight," he said. "This is a special day, not just for me, but for Veronica. We are so blessed to have such incredible family and friends to celebrate this new chapter in our lives." There was polite applause. I tightened my jaw. Like the last chapter, my mother's life, the new one was a book he was eager to close. "Of course," he said, "I want to take a moment to acknowledge my children, Stephanie and Alex." My stomach turned over. They've been through a lot this past year, and I know how difficult transitions can be. But Stephanie, sweetheart, you've been such a strong, beautiful soul through it all. I couldn't be prouder of the woman you've become. Stephanie gritted her teeth and smiled. My father then turned to face me. "And Alex," he put forth. I gave him a blank stare in return. He went on, his voice calm and practiced. "I know we've had our differences, but family is family. And in the spirit of unity, I'd love for you to say a few words." My body froze. There was silence in the room. Stephanie seemed as shocked as I did when I looked at her. My dad gave me a hopeful smile. "Come on, son. Don't be a disgrace." The remarks were like a kick to the stomach. Suddenly, I lost my temper. I gently got up and picked up my glass. The room waited and watched me. I inhaled deeply and then, "Here's to the woman who was sleeping with my dad while my mom was dying." The impact was immediate. The throng echoed with a piercing gasp. The sound of a fork hitting a plate was heard. Peter, my father's best man, dropped his champagne glass to the ground after fumbling with it. Veronica's flawless smile vanished as her face lost all of its color. Then the mayhem started. Veronica screamed, "What the, Alex?" Her voice pierced the quiet like a dagger. The room echoed with a whisper. Did he just say? Oh my God. Richard's face grew serious. Sit down. I remained motionless. No. Anger flashed in his eyes. You have no idea what you're talking about. Really? I asked with a sour laugh. Because I remember Mom crying herself to sleep when you'd work late. I remember the whispers. The hotel receipts? The perfume on your shirts that weren't hers? I remember everything. Veronica clenched her hands into fists. You're lying. Am I? I retorted. Because last time I checked, mistresses don't typically get wedding rings. Beside me, Stephanie choked back a sob. My father said, Enough, in a loud voice. You will not ruin this night. I sneered. Ruin it? Dad, you ruined it, you ruined us. And you don't even care. The tense atmosphere in the room was oppressive. The priest then got to his feet, took off his glasses and let out a sigh. He whispered, You know what, I'm done. The priest left the wedding after saying that. The murmurs became full-fledged discussions. Seething, Richard turned to face me. Get out. I carefully placed my glass on the table. Gladly. My father's ideal wedding was in ruins when I left the reception without turning around. My heart was racing in my ears as I left the ballroom. Decorative mirrors and pricey floral arrangements lined the dimly lit big hallway outside the reception, reflecting the face of a man who had finally spoken his truth. I had to breathe. I pushed open the massive doors to the outdoor terrace with trembling hands. The crisp, chilling Chicago night seemed like a slap across my warm skin. Leaning on the stone railing and holding on to the edge with my fingers until my knuckles became white, I inhaled deeply. In sharp contrast to the pandemonium I had left behind, everything seemed peaceful out here. I had burned my father's entire wedding to the ground after he declared me a shame. I let out a breath that was audible in the chilly night air. Was it expected of me to feel bad? Feeling relieved? Furious? I made my home somewhere in the middle. Alex. The sound of my sister's voice caused me to turn. Stephanie had come onto the patio after me, her shoes clicking on the stone. Her eyes were still hazy from tears, and her cheeks was heated. I said, You okay? In a hushed voice. She laughed unsteadily. With a loud exhale, she ran a hand through her dark curls and asked, Am I okay? I should be asking you that. I wiped a palm across my face and turned my head away. I don't know, Stephanie. I couldn't let him get away with it. Softly. You didn't, she said. Believe me, you didn't. I gave her a quick look. Was I out of line? She gave a snort. Out of line? Alex, you just nuked Dad's wedding. I think out of line is a bit of an understatement. I exhaled sharply. Yeah. She folded her arms across her chest and leaned against the railing next to me. She tilted her head and said, I mean, I probably wouldn't have done it that way, but I don't blame you. Not even a little. With the distant city lights flashing, silence descended between us. After some time, Stephanie whispered, Mom would have wanted this, wouldn't she? The lump in my throat was swallowed. Yeah, I muttered. I think she would have. She blinked quickly as she nodded. I grabbed her hand and gave it a light squeeze. I inquired, Are they still in there? She drew another trembling breath. She glanced at me and said, Oh yeah. The guests are still whispering, Dad's trying to do damage control, but it's bad. Veronica looked like she was going to combust, and the priest actually left, like, straight up walking out. A dry laugh slipped out of my mouth. Good. Stephanie grinned. Honestly? Yeah. Suddenly, the door behind us cracked open. We both turned, and our father, Richard Holloway, was standing there. His jaw was clenched so tightly that I felt his teeth may break, and his face was taut with barely contained rage. He had unzipped his tuxedo jacket, as though he had jerked it open in exasperation. At his sides, his hands were clenched into fists. Stephanie, he murmured in a quiet, steady voice. Go inside. She tensed up. No. His gaze now shifted to mine. I moved forward, putting myself in their path. She stays. His voice remained even as his nostrils flared. I don't want to do this here. I sneered. Then I pointed to the ballroom and said, Oh, now you care about appearances? Pretty sure that ship sailed when you called me a disgrace in front of 200 people. He clenched his jaw. You humiliated me. I laughed without humor. I shook my head and said, You embarrassed yourself, Dad. You could have just let me sit there in silence. But no, you had to drag me into it. You had to make me play along with your little fairy tale. His voice trailed off as he stepped closer. You had no right to do what you did. Unflinching, I looked him in the eye. And you had no right to do what you did. His gaze grew gloomy. You don't understand. I abruptly interrupted him, saying, Don't you dare try to justify it. I was there, Dad. I saw what it did to her. I saw Mom waste away in that hospital bed while you were off with her. Beside me, Stephanie took a short breath, but she didn't say anything. Slowly, as though attempting to regain control, Richard let out his breath. You don't know what my marriage with your mother was like. My blood became frigid. Excuse me? His face grew stern. Alex, it wasn't flawless. He halted, shaking his head. There were problems long before Veronica. I gaped at him in shock. I erupted in rage and said, You don't get to do that? You don't get to rewrite history just to make yourself feel better. She loved you. She trusted you. And you repaid her by cheating on her while she was dying. His lips clenched. I was unhappy. In fact, I laughed. You were unhappy? I asked, reaching out. Do you have any idea how much pain Mom was in? How she clung to the hope that maybe, you still loved her? And you were, what, bored? Richard's expression grew gloomy. Watch it. No, I yelled. You watch yourself. Because I am done letting you pretend you're some kind of victim here. You made a choice, Dad. You chose Veronica over Mom. Over us. Quiet. For the first time in my life, I noticed something that nearly looked like guilt on my father's face. However, it went by too soon. Instead, he smoothed a hand down his tuxedo and straightened. His voice was icy as he spoke again. If you walk away from me now, you walk away for good, stated the man. Is that what you want? I gazed at him. It was this. He believed he could terrify me back into obedience at this point. He didn't comprehend though, because I had already lost my mother. I wasn't afraid of losing him at all. I squared my shoulders and looked him in the eyes with a certain assurance. Yes, that's exactly what I want, I answered steadily. If that's what it takes. Beside me, Stephanie quietly gasped, but she made no attempt to stop me. Richard's face remained unchanged. If anything, his face was hidden behind an unreadable mask as his jaw just tensed. Then don't come crawling back when you regret it, he added. I shook my head and let out a breath. I won't. After saying that I turned and left. After a brief moment of hesitation, Stephanie followed. We never once turned around. With everything bearing down on us, Stephanie and I moved away from our father, the chilly air stinging my skin. Even though my breath was shallow and my legs felt heavy, I continued to walk. My dad didn't give us a call. He made no attempt to stop me. Excellent. I didn't think he would. Richard Holloway wasn't the type to go for anything that he gave up. Stephanie and I arrived at the hotel's side entrance, where some employees were smoking. They were too preoccupied with whatever drama was taking place inside the ballroom to even look at us as we passed. Stephanie wrapped her arms around herself and sniffed next to me. I said, You okay? In a softer tone. She shook her head and laughed dryly. Am I okay, Alex? I don't even know what the hell just happened in there. She turned to face me and stopped walking. Do you realize what you just did? One hand swept through my hair. Yeah, I do. She looked into my face. And do you regret it? I paused, for just a moment. The truthful answer was, no. Not even a little. Stephanie nodded, letting out a trembling breath. Yeah, she said quietly. Me neither. The noises of distant traffic filled the silence between us as we stood there. Then Stephanie laughed once more, a genuine laugh, a gasping and somewhat incredulous laugh. Jesus Christ, Alex. The priest walked out. In spite of myself, I grinned. Yeah, that was something. She continued to smile as she shook her head. Then her face became serious. What do we do now? I let out a breath and gazed up at the night sky over Chicago. I don't know, I said. But I know I'm not going back there. Stephanie looked toward the hotel entrance and bit her lip. The air was still filled with the sounds of music and muted voices. She said, Should we just leave? I looked at her. Should we stay? After giving it some thought, she nodded. Fair point. The door behind us suddenly opened as we turned to go for the parking lot. Alex. We pivoted. Veronica was the one. As though she had nearly ran after us, her wedding dress, a gorgeous, form-fitting gown with intricate lace trimming, had hiked up at the bottom. Her face was contorted with anger, her makeup was flawless, and her blonde locks were now slightly frizzed. Stephanie groaned softly. Oh, for fuck's sake. With her heels clicking fiercely against the pavement, Veronica charged in our direction. She pushed a manicured finger into my chest as she stopped. Herzing. You ruined my wedding, I cocked my head. Did I? Or did you ruin your own life when you decided to screw a married man? Her eyes were blazing. You arrogant little... Careful, I said. Wouldn't want a guest to hear the blushing bride throwing a tantrum. She stomped her foot. Really? You think this is funny? You think humiliating us in front of everyone was some kind of win for you? I folded my arms. I think it was the truth. Something neither of you seemed to be familiar with. Her nose wrinkled. You selfish little crap. Beside me, Stephanie took a sharp inhale. Whoa. Veronica stepped forward. Your father gave you everything. He built a life for you. And this is how you repay him? I exhaled slowly and deliberately. You want to talk about repayment, Veronica? My mother spent 25 years loving a man who betrayed her while she was fighting for her life. And you? I motioned at her. You were part of it. You don't get to stand here in your stolen wedding dress and play the victim. She opened and shut her mouth, but nothing came out. Stephanie uttered a silent, damn. Veronica bounced back fast. Your father doesn't deserve this. He's been through enough. Something inside of me snapped. He's been through enough? I said in a harder, more irate tone. Do you hear yourself? My mother died, and you think he was the one who suffered? Veronica's expression contorted. Margaret. Don't say her name, I abruptly interrupted. She paused. I lowered my voice and stepped forward. You don't get to pretend you cared about her. You don't get to act like this wedding was some beautiful new beginning when we all know what it really is. Her jaw tightened as she swallowed forcefully. My voice was deadly calm as I said, You're just another chapter in a book of lies. She was speechless for the first time that evening. Claire folded her arms. Are we done here? A small line formed on Veronica's lips. Without saying another word, she pivoted on her heel and strode back in the direction of the hotel. Wow, mumbled Claire. That was dramatic. I breathed out slowly. Yeah, I'm exhausted. She gave me a look. Are you really okay? I paused. I don't know, I said. But I think I will be. She smirked after giving a slow nod. So, since we're already dressed up and out in the city, you want to go get some overpriced cocktails somewhere fancy and pretend we belong there? A tiny smile pulled at my mouth. That might be the best idea you've had all night. She put her arm around my own. Then let's get the hell out of here. After that, we left the ruins of my father's wedding behind and left the Fairmont Hotel. I felt free for the first time in a long time. As Stephanie and I strolled along the busy Chicago street, the bustle of the city surrounded us. I relished the bracing cold air since I needed any chance to get my mind clean. Stephanie put her arm through mine and asked, Are you really going to be okay? I breathed out slowly. I think so. You? She gave a shrug. Honestly, I thought I'd feel guilty. I thought I'd be panicking about how we just set Dad's life on fire. However, she trailed off before smiling. I feel amazing. I laughed with a sigh. Good. We finally arrived at a cocktail bar in River North, a classy lounge populated by individuals who appeared to have been featured on magazine covers. We really didn't belong there, but Claire persisted, and I reasoned that we should have something upscale after everything we had just been through. After ordering 2 extremely expensive drinks and slipping into a leather booth toward the rear, we let the night descend on us. Following some time, Claire stirred her martini and stated, You know he's going to come after us, right? I gave a nod. Yeah, but I don't care. She grinned. So what's next? I sipped my whiskey slowly. We finish what we started. And we accomplished precisely that. My father's wedding went viral by the following morning. When Stephanie and I woke up, our phones were exploding with missed calls, texts, and social media notifications. The controversy had taken off like wildfire. My toast was apparently videotaped by many of the visitors. The internet did what it does well once someone placed it online. The video was widely shared. Groom's son exposes the affair. Wedding, Chicago lawyer's big day turns into a public meltdown. Brutal wedding toast calls out father's infidelity, and we are here for it. When Stephanie saw the headlines, she almost choked on her coffee. Holy crap, Alex, we broke the internet. I read through one of the video's comments. Justice for Margaret. Imagine being called out like this on your wedding day. Couldn't be me. Low-key, the priest walking out was the most iconic part. You love to see karma working in real time. I couldn't contain my laughter. At last, my father's true self was revealed to the world. As she continued to browse, Claire wondered, "Do you think Dad has seen it yet?" Just like clockwork, my phone rang. "Holloway, Richard." I allowed it to ring. Claire's eyebrow went up. "You're not going to answer?" I sipped my coffee. "Nope. Cold." She smiled. "I like it." But I wasn't finished yet. My father's impeccable reputation began to deteriorate over the course of the next days. His legal practice, which took pride in its honesty, was not pleased with the controversy. Customers began to distance themselves from him because they didn't want to be connected to him. Then more rumors began to circulate. People started excavating. Veronica wasn't the only affair, it turns out. Others were present. Several. A few of them existed for years before Mom's illness. There was nothing Stephanie and I needed to do. The task was done for us by the internet. My father resigned from his firm a week later. Veronica removed all of her social media accounts a week later. The icing on the cake was when Veronica abandoned him. The outrage and humiliation were too much for her to bear. She was committed to a life of luxury, wealth, and prestige. She didn't agree to be the woman in that wedding incident that went viral. Thus, she packed her bags and left his life just 2 months after their terrible wedding. Poetic fairness. Claire and I went to Mom's cemetery one afternoon. There, it was quiet. Keep quiet. The rows of headstones were bathed in a golden glow as the sun began to set. I brushed away some fallen leaves and set a bouquet of fresh lilies next to her headstone. "Hey, Mom," I whispered. "You won't believe what we did?" Claire, who was kneeling next to me, laughed quietly. "You would have loved it?" As I gazed at her name etched in stone, I exhaled. I felt like I could breathe for the first time in a long time. As if we had at last provided her with the justice she was never able to receive while she was alive. I have no regrets at all. Richard Holloway made one attempt. A voicemail, half-hearted and pitiful. "Alex, I know things got out of hand, but you're still my son, we should talk." I didn't listen to the others before deleting it. I moved on with Stephanie. What about my dad? He was living alone in a condo downtown when I last heard from him. His reputation has been destroyed. His career is deteriorating, and to be honest, I couldn't have imagined a more pleasurable form of retaliation. I was free for the first time in my life. And it was sufficient. Thanks for watching and sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next drama-filled episode. At my engagement party, my mom raised a glass to toast. Then took back my $45,000 wedding fund and gave it to my sister. She slapped me. In front of everyone. For saying no. 10 minutes later, she was in handcuffs, and my entire family turned on me. Charlotte Johnson is my name, and I'm 30 years old. Brookmere is a mid-sized city where I work as a graphic designer. Even if everything had been going smoothly, it seemed like the start of something much more significant. As I surveyed the dimly lit eatery, I couldn't help but smile. Everything seemed ideal. The aroma of fresh flowers in the air, the camel centerpieces, and the soft background music. We had an engagement party tonight. And Charles and I were finally moving forward after 4 years of dating. We would get married in 4 months. As tall and warm as ever, Charles was standing next to me, his hand resting lightly on the small of my back. He joined the marketing agency where I worked in the creative department 4 years ago, which is when I first met him. After we clicked during a company off-site retreat, everything just fell into place. He was intelligent, trustworthy, and kind. We had established a life based on mutual respect, trust, and objectives. Tonight, we celebrated our engagement with our closest friends and family. As I looked across the room, I saw a lot of people I knew grinning back at me. Charles' parents, old college pals, co-workers, and even some cousins I hadn't seen in a long time. Naturally, my own family was present, or the majority of them were. At a table close to the front were my parents, Owen Johnson and Erica Johnson. Their smiles appeared forced and rigid. Chloe, my younger sister, was also present, idly browsing through her phone as if she had been forced to come. Given her history, this is most likely her 3rd phone this year. We were never particularly close, and the gap just widened over time. I ignored the uncomfortable tension, though. We weren't talking about previous family dynamics tonight, it was about commitment, love, and the next phase of life. Or so I believed. Erica got up and used a spoon to gently tap her wine glass. Conversation ceased as everyone's attention was drawn to her as the sound reverberated throughout the room. With a smile that stopped short of her eyes, she asked, "Can I have everyone's attention please?" First, I want to say congratulations to my beautiful daughter Charlotte and her wonderful fiancé Charles. I hope your marriage is full of love, joy, and happiness. There was a round of raised glasses and courteous applause. I grinned and thanked Charles for squeezing my hand beneath the table. However, my mother's voice became abruptly colder and more purposeful when she spoke again. She remarked, "I also have an important announcement to make," as she put down her drink. After talking it over with Owen, we've decided to give Charlotte's $45,000 wedding fund to Chloe instead. The room fell silent. Confident that I must have misheard her, I blinked. I looked around, expecting someone else to join in the laughter, and let forth a small chuckle. "That's funny, Mom," I answered, attempting to seem lighthearted. "But that money is mine. I'm not giving it away." Erica's smile vanished in an instant. Lips pushed into a narrow line, her face hardened. "This isn't a joke, Charlotte," she snapped. "Your sister is getting married a few months after you, and she needs the money more than you do." My face felt a flood of heat. My stomach constricted. "What are you talking about? That's my money, Mom. You and Dad gave it to me. It's in my personal account." "Honey," she began in a tone of artificial serenity. "You're doing a great job, and Charles is too. Chloe and her fiancé are having a hard time, and she deserves a lovely wedding as well." My hands started to shake. Trying to stabilize myself, I got up. "We've already planned our wedding with that money. We've been careful. We're being smart with it. We even want to use part of it for a down payment on a home. You can't just take it away." Chloe almost knocked over her drink when she abruptly pushed her chair back and leaped to her feet. She yelled, "Charlotte, stop being so self-centered. You could have offered to share it a long time ago. You know I need it more than you do." My jaw clenched as I turned to face her. "This isn't about need, Chloe. It's about what's right. I planned ahead. You blew through your own fund, and now you expect me to just hand mine over." "She lives simply," asserted my mother. "She doesn't have much, and her fiancé is doing the best he can. You've always had more." I shot back, crossing my arms over my chest. "I've always worked harder," I yelled back. "I follow the rules. I was saved. I planned. I don't care how you spin it. I'm not giving you my money." Erica's cheeks turned red. The room's tension reached an intolerable level. Charles tried to soothe me by putting a gentle hand on my arm, but I refused to give up. Then, in what seemed like an eternity, my mother came forward and gave me a heavy slap across the face. Like a whip crack, the sound reverberated throughout the eatery. I jerked my head sideways. My eyes instantly swelled and my cheek ached, not only from the pain but also from the shock. There was utter silence in the room. Nobody made a move. Chloe appeared astounded as well. Slowly, I turned back to face my mom. I spoke in a steady, low voice. "You don't get to hit me just because I said no." Someone at one of the surrounding tables took a sharp gasp. Then I heard it. A server at the bar talking softly into a phone. "Yes, hello. I need to report an assault. It happened just now at Alden's Bistro." After a few minutes, sirens could be heard coming toward the eatery. The guests were silent, with several of them glancing at me and others looking at their plates clumsily, not knowing how to respond. I remained mute as I took in the shock of what had just transpired. Even though my cheek hurt, the emotional sting was more intense. While my father quietly drew Erica away in an attempt to soothe her, Charles stood next to me, his jaw clenched. Two officers in uniform came inside the restaurant a little while later. One of them came over to our table and inquired as to if I had been attacked. I confirmed what had transpired with a low nod. A server who was close by came forward to describe the slap, describing how Erica had hit me in front of the diners. Erica attempted to justify herself by claiming that it was only a family issue, but the officer patiently explained that public violence is illegal regardless of a person's relationship. I was asked if I wanted to file charges by the officers. Despite my heart thumping in my chest, I spoke steadily. "Yes, I do." Right there in the restaurant, they arrested Erica. I saw Chloe looking at me in shock as the officers brought her out in handcuffs, as if I were the bad guy for just defending myself. My dad silently followed them out. The visitors were uncertain whether to applaud, weep, or depart, and the room remained motionless. Charles never once released my hand during the entire event. After consulting with my attorney, I formally filed a report and sought criminal charges later that evening. The following day, Erica was freed on bail, but the legal proceedings had already started. We went back to court a few weeks later, but this time it was for the smack rather than the money. Erica stepped before the court, who went over the restaurant's security footage and witness accounts. There was no denying the evidence. She was given a $2,000 fine, 6 months of probation, and required anger management training after being found guilty of misdemeanor assault. Fortunately, the judge offered her a 30-day suspended jail term rather than actual jail time. She avoided making eye contact with me while I sat in the courtroom. And I got up, looked directly into my mother's eyes, and responded unequivocally when the judge asked if I had anything to say. I didn't expect this from my mother, but no one is above the law. I was mistaken to believe that things would settle down once the trial drama subsided. Our family's division was only widened by the slap and the arrest. Erica didn't make contact. I was blocked on everything by Chloe. What about my dad? Well, he decided to keep quiet. However, the true storm was yet to come. When I returned home 3 weeks after the engagement party, I saw a hefty envelope in my mailbox. It was the kind of envelope that makes your stomach turn. It came from Hall & Sutter Associates, a law company. There was an official notice inside. My parents were suing me for the $45,000 fund, saying I had misappropriated it and it was only intended for tuition costs. I initially chuckled incredulously. When I was 17, I put the money aside in a custodial account, so it was legally mine. I was given complete control when I was 19. Chloe and I were informed by our parents that we may spend our money whatever we pleased after we reached adulthood. That I had been cautious, realistic, and goal-oriented was the only difference. I utilized some of it to pay for my education at a public university, used a scholarship to cover the remaining amount, and let the account grow. I was continually making plans for the future. In contrast, Chloe attended an expensive private school, left after 2.5 years, and used the remaining funds to start a boutique that collapsed after 7 months. She squandered her cash on a launch party with hired influencers, an expensive picture shoot, and branding. When all fell apart, all she had left was a fancy car that she had bought on a whim because she thought she would succeed. She and my parents wanted my money now that she had lost it. I engaged Brianna Lane, a shrewd, composed, and self-assured lawyer. She examined my papers, then turned to face me and said, "They don't have a case. The account was gifted to you. There are no restrictions on how you use it. Any mention of a verbal agreement won't hold up in court." I nodded, both relieved and irritated. I questioned, "Then why go through all this?" Brianna gave a shrug. "Because some people would rather drag you down than admit they made mistakes, especially when they're protecting someone else." Suddenly, I saw that I was facing not just a court battle but a lifetime of imbalance, denial, and partiality. My mom wasn't merely attempting to embezzle my money. She was making me pay for Chloe's failure in an attempt to make up for it. The ensuing months were among the most taxing of my life. Everything I had, including time, energy, and even concentration at work, was devoured by the legal matter. There were several preliminary hearings, emails, papers, and demands for discovery. I was constantly reminded that this was more than just a lawsuit when I walked into the courtroom and saw my parents seated next to Chloe, all of them averting their eyes from me. It was treachery. At the hearings, Chloe displayed smug looks, obviously sure that she would somehow take the money that I had been safeguarding for years. She spoke before the court during one especially heated session, stating that the fund had always been intended only for college. "Did you use all of your funds strictly for college expenses?" my lawyer asked her bluntly as he stood up. Chloe paused. A mumbled, "Well, not all of it," she said. Brianna gave a nod. "In fact, you dropped out of college and used the remaining amount for your own business venture and a luxury car, didn't you?" Chloe's expression tensed. "That's not relevant. However, it was highly pertinent." Brianna went on. "So if there were supposedly strict conditions on this money, why were you allowed to use it for non-educational purposes without objection?" Chloe was unable to respond. As the courtroom listened, I sat silently, my heart racing yet steady. My parents' partiality, Chloe's carelessness, and their attempt to hide her shortcomings by punishing me were all suddenly coming to light. Charles continued to be my anchor outside the courtroom. He attended every hearing, supported me during every obstacle, and never stopped reminding me that it was important to stand my ground. However, it wasn't simple. It seemed like everything I had planned for my wedding was being taken away from me because of the legal bills and emotional exhaustion. A portion of our planning had to be postponed. I didn't get any sleep. Sometimes I cried in the middle of the night, and other times I cried in between work meetings. However, I never gave up. I realized that money wasn't the only factor in this fight. For once, it was about holding my family accountable, about being seen, and about being valued. Things got worse just when I believed they couldn't get much worse. My cousin Melissa called me when I was at home going over a list of wedding vendors. She said empathetically, "Charlotte, I just wanted to say I'm sorry about the wedding being canceled." A beat skipped in my chest. "What are you talking about?" The wedding's still on. A pause occurred. Your mom called me last week. She said you and Charles broke up because he cheated on you. My mouth fell open. In the hour that followed, I got 3 more calls from bewildered friends and distant family members who wanted to know why the wedding had been cancelled. Even phony emails purporting to be from me had been received, claiming that the event had been cancelled. Nothing was in my sent folder when I checked my email, indicating that someone had created a phony account to mimic me. I was taken aback. My first thought was of Chloe. The trend was obvious, but I had no evidence. Legal charges were just the beginning of the sabotage. It had turned personal. One of the few family members who hadn't chosen a side was my mom's sister, Aunt Mara, whom I called. I was about to call you, she sighed. Your mother's been telling people you're lying about Charles, that you're unstable, and that the wedding was never supposed to happen. Weary, I reclined against the wall. I questioned, why is she doing this? Because she's protecting Chloe, Aunt Mara said kindly, in response. She's always protected her, even when she didn't deserve it. I love Chloe, but your mom is enabling her. And now she's dragging you through the mud to make her look better. The treachery was more profound than any testimony given in court. In an attempt to gain compassion for my sister, my own mother was attempting to damage my reputation. When Charles entered that night, he saw my face right away. He said, "What's wrong?" I told him what Melissa had stated and gave him screenshots of the phony emails. He wasn't shocked, but he was angry. His words were bleak. Your sister just contacted me too, he added. She said she had proof that you were cheating on me. She sent photos. I looked at him horrified. He took out his phone and displayed a number of shoddy, obviously altered pictures of a woman standing next to an unknown man with my face pasted onto another body. It was extremely distressing but also hilariously awful. Charles gave a headshake. Of course I didn't believe it, but my parents saw them too. Your family is trying to destroy everything we're building. At that point, we made the decision to act. For the wedding, we engaged a professional security company and sent in pictures of Erica, Owen, and Chloe with the directive that none of them be let entry. I didn't want to let them destroy anything else, even though I detested that it had come to this. I woke up the morning of the wedding feeling a weird mix of dread and excitement. Just outside of Brookmere, Charles and I had selected a stunning outdoor location. Elegant and intimate without being over the top. The green area was lined with white seats facing a wooden bridge covered in fresh flowers. As guests started to arrive, I stood in my dress in the wedding room, fixing my veil. Nerves tightened in my gut, not because of the vows, but because of what I knew was still possible. 2 skilled security officers were posted at the venue's entrance, and they were under tight orders to bar members of my immediate family from entering. I had reviewed all the details with Charles. I was still unable to unwind. The door of the bridal suite was knocked on at about 2:15. Lowering his voice, one of the guards entered. Miss Johnson, he began carefully. We've just detained a young woman attempting to enter through the back service gate. She matches the photo you gave us. Your sister, Chloe. My heart was racing. I inquired, was she alone? Yes, he replied. But she was carrying a tote bag. When we opened it, we found a large can of red paint. My throat tightened each breath. She intended to destroy the bridal gown, the location, and the guests. Disbelief, sadness, and rage struggled for room in my chest. The guard asked, do you want to press charges? We can contact the local sheriff right now. I paused. I had every reason to call the police again after the slap, the lawsuit, the falsehoods, the altered photos, and now this. However, this was the day of my wedding. Their disarray had already cost me enough. I finally answered, no, in a flat voice. Just make sure she's removed from the property and doesn't come back. Please also check that my parents haven't tried to sneak in. He gave a nod and walked away. I slid onto a chair close by and tried not to cry. Isabel, my closest friend, was kneeling next to me. She muttered, what happened? My voice was hardly steady when I glanced at her. Chloe tried to sneak in with a can of paint. She was going to destroy everything. After widening in surprise, Isabel's eyes hardened in rage. With firmness she stated, you know what? That means you win. They couldn't stop your happiness, so they tried to ruin it. But you stopped them. You stood your ground. Now go marry the man who stood by you through all of this. You deserve every bit of this day. I brushed away my tears, inhaled deeply, and got to my feet. My dad's brother, my Uncle Brian, escorted me down the aisle. Charles was waiting beneath the arch with his eyes fixed on mine as I entered the garden. The rest of the world vanished in that instant. The pain, the tears, the court dates, the betrayal, all of it passed. Love was the theme of today. Ours. It was a wonderful and touching ceremony. Our vows were filled with words of collaboration, strength, and loyalty. The guests erupted in cheers when the officiant declared us husband and wife. I felt light for the first time in months. Free. The reception exceeded our expectations in every way. Heartfelt statements from those who had supported us throughout it all were interspersed with music and fun. Isabel's toast brought tears to my eyes, the kind of emotions that come only after you've weathered a storm and found calm on the other side. Like nothing else mattered, Charles and I celebrated, danced, and ate. Actually, nothing else did. Almost everyone remarked on how lovely the location appeared, how joyful we appeared, and how the day was filled with true love. Despite hearing tidbits of the drama, a few guests respected our quiet. During dinner, one aunt murmured, "I'm so proud of you for standing your ground." Long after the cake was sliced and the last song was sung, her words continued to resonate with me. Charles and I ran hand in hand through a shower of rice that our friends had thrown as the night came to an end, hidden under a starry sky. We both smiled like children as we got into the car that was waiting at the curb and drove away. I took a moment to spin around and gaze at the venue's distant brightness. My sister had attempted, but failed, to destroy that moment. All of them had. We had the most amazing honeymoon. A tranquil seaside town far from Brookmere for 3 weeks. No courts, avoid conflicts, only the man I loved, the sun, and the waves. I took a deep breath. Take a deep breath. For the first time in a long, long time. I felt prepared to proceed once we got home. We concentrated on moving into our apartment, making plans for the future, and moving on from the past. I saw my cousin Rachel at the grocery store a few weeks later. "Did you hear about Chloe's wedding?" she inquired after giving him a quick embrace. I arched an eyebrow. My response was, "We're not exactly talking." "Your parents took out a loan to pay for everything," she stated. "It's going to be at the Grand Garden Hotel downtown, super lavish. They're flying in a chef from out of state. It's a whole production." I couldn't resist chuckling quietly. They were obviously going above and beyond for Chloe, even if it meant incurring debt. Rachel gently questioned, "Are you going if she invites you?" "She tried to ruin my wedding with a can of paint," I angrily remarked. "So no, I won't be attending." Oddly enough, no invitation was ever sent. Later, I learned via family rumors that a number of relatives turned down invites to Chloe's wedding because they were uncomfortable with the way I had been handled. Some people were courteous about it. Others spoke up. In any case, the gleam had begun to fade, both for Chloe and for my parents. The $45,000 had been used just as Charles and I had intended. Modest, purposeful, and full of loved ones, our wedding was everything we could have imagined. We also put the remaining funds toward a down payment on a beautiful apartment outside of the city. The mortgage was affordable given our combined wages, and for the first time, we were accumulating equity rather than spending it all on rent. Despite its diminutive size, our home was ours. Built with patience and difficult choices rather than handouts. After the wedding, my life found a rhythm I wasn't aware I needed. On the weekends, Charles and I decorated our new flat. Nothing extravagant, just walls covered with pictures from our wedding and trips, shelves we put up ourselves, and a couch we saved for. Charles giggled as he fumbled with an IKEA dresser one Saturday afternoon while we were arranging the guest room. "Who do you think will be our first overnight guest?" questioned him. I stopped, holding a screwdriver. My thoughts briefly turned to my parents. In a distant reality, they might say they're sorry. Perhaps Chloe would mature and accept accountability for her actions. I wasn't holding my breath though. Finally, with a kind smile, I said, "Whoever it is, there'll be someone who genuinely cares about us." Holidays passed without any texts, calls, or invitations. Their absence was painful at first. That year, my birthday went by in silence, and I never heard my mother's voice wishing me a happy birthday for the first time. But then I thought of the slap, the lawsuit, the falsehoods, the paint, the phony pictures, and the attempt, motivated by jealousy, to ruin something innocent. And the agony gave way to understanding. Every now and then, Charles would ask me if I believed that my family and I would ever be at peace. Sincerely, I said, maybe one day. But if it ever happens, it'll take more than an apology. It'll take change. And I don't see that coming anytime soon. In the end, Chloe's wedding came and went. I heard it was extravagant, with matching designer outfits for the bridesmaids, champagne fountains, and a hired string quartet. However, a few important family members chose not to go because they were uneasy about the way my parents and sister treated me. Even worse, word spread that Owen and Erica had taken out a huge loan. In an attempt to make a statement and act as though the previous year hadn't occurred, they had thrown everything into that one event. However, it had, and people recalled. I came to a deep realization as Charles and I developed our marriage. Family is more than simply your genetic relatives. It's the individuals who respect your peace, encourage your boundaries, and rejoice in your victories. Yes, I had lost a lot. However, I had acquired a house. A husband who supported me no matter what. Friends and family who never wavered after seeing the truth. Above all else, I still had myself. I didn't break down. I refused to give in. I defended what I had created out of honor, not greed. We were able to purchase stability, a home, and a future thanks to the $45,000 investment. In reality, though, it granted us freedom. Freedom from coercion. Liberty from culpability. Freedom from a family that thought obedience was a prerequisite for love. I defended myself. And I prevailed. Not only in court, however, in life. We appreciate you viewing this moving tale. Please remember to like the video to express your support if you found it to be touching or relatable. We would love to hear your opinions, so please leave a comment below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new uploads if you like stories with strong emotions and satisfying endings that are inspired by real life. Thanks for watching and diving into this wild family drama with me. If you love Reddit family drama, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. Family laughed at my business over dinner, I let them talk. Then I built an empire. When I shut the door, they begged me to come back. My whole family laughed at me at dinner. So I invited them all back, to my mansion. What I told them at the end left the room in total silence. During Thanksgiving dinner, my family made fun of my small business. How's that going? Still broke yet? They let out a big laugh. I said nothing. They discovered that I was yesterday. Even now, occasionally, I can still hear the laughter in my ears. There was more than simply laughter. It seemed nasty, piercing, and sharp, the kind that permeates a space. Last Thanksgiving, that is. With a turkey in the middle, candles flickering softly, and the sound of football resonating from the living room, the table was crowded. It ought to have been comfortable, it ought to have been familiar. Rather, it was like being in a harsh, chilly spotlight. When my cousin Jenna snorted so loudly that she nearly knocked over her wine glass, I was halfway through telling Uncle Brian about my business, which I put every hour, every cent, and every part of myself into. She snarled, adding further venom to the phrase as if it were a sickness. How's your little business going? Still broke yet? Another person asked. I didn't even look to see who it was. It was followed by thunderous laughter. My dad muttered a little laugh. In that pitying, disappointing manner, my mother shook her head. I said nothing. I gave them a tiny, fragile smile and let them enjoy themselves. But something changed inside. The goal was not to disprove them. I wanted to prove myself correct. For them, I was not going to succeed. In spite of them, I was going to succeed. I recall trying to ignore the knot in my gut as I stood in the kitchen after supper, scraping leftovers into a plastic container. From the living room came the sounds of football and laughter. My brother James was making a lot of noise about how I probably sold 3 t-shirts in a year. When he said, maybe next year he'll afford real mashed potatoes, everyone laughed so hard that someone gave up. I lowered my head. However, an odd event occurred. I assume no one could hear my father, my aunt, and a few other people conversing in the den through the partially closed door as I went to put the dishes away. I heard it at that point. Aunt Linda murmured, "Poor kid," with a tone of phony worry. "Still chasing rainbows?" Dad gave a grunt. If he had any sense, he'd quit that fantasy and get a real job. Wendy's is always hiring. They all laughed. By the time he's 30, he'll still be living in some drab apartment dreaming about his big break. It's almost sad, said another voice, possibly that of my uncle. The words that hurt the most were then spoken by my mother, who is a kind and loving person. Well, at least he's harmless. I mean, it's not like he'll ever actually succeed enough to embarrass us. With my hands shaking around a plate I hadn't even known I was holding, I remained motionless. They weren't merely skeptical of me. They thought I would fail. They needed me to fail, which is worse. They would be safer if I remained the underdog, the idealist who never achieved anything. I ventured to think I could create something better, but it was simpler than acknowledging they had chosen a life of mediocrity and resentment. Without saying goodbye, I took my jacket from the peg by the door, put the dish carefully in the sink, and left the kitchen. I hardly noticed the cold air biting my face outside. I had just one idea racing through my head. Never again. I would never again ask for their blessing. I would never again justify myself to those who were hoping for my downfall. I opened my laptop that evening and spent a considerable amount of time staring at the screen while I sat by myself in my small, drafty flat. I could either fall under their incredulity or use it to shape me into something unstoppable. I went into my business plan, made all the necessary changes, tightened it up, and plotted out every crazy, unachievable goal I could think of. After that, I started working. And I continued. After Thanksgiving, the first 6 months were terrible. I worked out of a small one-bedroom apartment with plumbing that shook like a dying engine and barely functional heat. My hands were cramped from typing, packing, and hustle, and my eyes burned from too many hours of staring at a screen. I usually woke up before daylight and fell asleep after midnight. I didn't have an impressive startup tale. Angel investors weren't present. No loans from relatives. Just me, a used printer, a laptop that was half broken, and a heart full of obstinate blazing defiance. There were mornings when I would sit at the small kitchen table, surrounded by empty coffee cups and bills, and wonder what on earth I was doing. I would distrust myself more than I would be insulted by my family. Maybe they were right. Maybe you are just chasing rainbows. Maybe you are just nothing. Then I would hear my mom's voice again. At least he's harmless. I mean, it's not like he'll ever actually succeed enough to embarrass us. And that would rekindle the fire beneath me. In the least spectacular way imaginable, the pivotal moment occurred. A random online order I packed one night while dozing off, a customer I had all but forgotten about, and a social media tag for my little business. A picture, a post, and a few complimentary remarks regarding the caliber of my work. There was nothing viral about it. Not a million likes. No quick stardom. However, when I woke up the following day, I had 12 new orders, which is more than I typically receive in a week. 24 then. Then 60. I had to hurry, get more supplies, work more quickly, and update my website. However, the impetus was genuine and palpable for the first time. It also brought new people. Actual persons. Not relatives. Not doubters. Individuals who supported my ideas, believed in what I was creating, and wrote notes that said, "You're doing something special. Keep going." It's done me, honestly. How strangers could be kinder than everyone in my family. And among all of the orders, shipments, late nights, and unrelenting labor, I came to the following realization. Blood is not family. Family is loyalty. Respect is family. Family is unconditional affection that isn't conditioned or judged. Brick by heavy brick, piece by piece, the weight I'd carried my entire life, the urgent desire for their approval, began to crumble. And I could see the path ahead clearly for the first time. It would take a long time. It would be solitary. However, I was going to have it. It took place on a soggy Tuesday. Life-altering events seldom wait for ideal weather, which is funny. I received an email as I was bent over a pile of packaging orders at my kitchen table. Initially, I nearly erased it. Opportunity, the subject line, sounded like just another spam message. However, I opened it for some reason. It came from Caroline Walters, a boutique owner who I had never heard of but who seemed to have a sizable fan base in the independent sector. She wanted to discuss a cooperation after discovering one of my goods through that small customer post months ago. A large one. Supplying her nationwide chain of businesses. I read her words repeatedly as if they were written in a different language while I sat there blinking at the computer. She thought the branding was fantastic. She thought the quality was fantastic. She thought the story was fantastic. Additionally, if I could quickly scale up, she wanted to highlight my whole product line. I didn't think twice. I responded in 5 minutes, possibly coming out as impatient yet unconcerned. Later that afternoon, she called me, and her voice was enthusiastic, professional, and kind. She inquired about the size of my procedure. I told the truth. For now, I informed her, it was just me. She chuckled. My family's chuckle is one of happiness and admiration rather than one of derision. Her words, "That's even better. People love authenticity." I had a draft contract in my inbox by the time the call ended. I had contacted a small fulfillment company before the end of the week to assist me with production management. My business, which they ridiculed, was closing a deal by the end of the month that would put 6 figures in my pocket before spring. It seemed unreal. I realized my life was changing as I stood in that same small kitchen, the cheap linoleum floor sticky under my bare feet, the rain beating down on the window. I ought to have been overjoyed. However, all I experienced was this peculiar, silent calm. The air wasn't punched by me. I refrained from screaming into the night. I simply grinned slowly and wearily and muttered to the empty room, "You were wrong about me. They were wrong. Every single one of them. The following year flew by, filled with new contracts, restless nights, and hard-won development. I was no longer merely getting by. I was doing well. The small company they made fun of grew into a real one with staff, investors, and actual momentum. I just sat there and gazed at the screen for a long time the first time I wired 6 digits into my savings account. Not because I found it hard to believe. No, I anticipated this. Because I secretly knew that I didn't feel the way I had anticipated. I felt no vindication. I didn't feel victorious. I simply felt liberated. That's when I had the notion. I had no desire for vengeance. I desired resolution. I had no intention of showing up at their home with a bank statement in front of them. Number it would be too simple. It's too loud. I looked too much like the child they believed me to be. I chose to let them come to me instead. First, I purchased a huge house. I mean, a mansion. Situated on a hill, the expansive windows captured each sunset. Marble floors that reverberated as you moved. And enough space to lose yourself in. I told myself this each time I passed across those enormous, deserted hallways. You built this. No one can take it away. My cousins used to make jokes about my never being able to afford anything more than a second-hand Honda, so I filled the garage with that kind of vehicle. A Maserati in deep black. A Jeep that has been customized. A vintage Mustang, simply because I could. I didn't make any online posts about it. Avoid taking selfies in front of fast autos. No toasts with champagne. I said nothing. Then I sent out a group text 2 months ago. Easy. Straightforward. Family gathering. Sunday. Big news to share. The invitation was accepted by everyone. Naturally, they didn't. Deep down, they still considered me to be the loser they could comfortably feel sorry for, despite the fact that curiosity is a strong narcotic. They had no idea that their jaws would drop to the ground before they had even rung the doorbell when they pulled up that twisting road. They were unaware that they were not the subject of the major news. It was all about me and the new life I had created in their absence. On the day of the event, the air was clear and the sky was so clear that it appeared to have been painted. Even though I got up early, I wasn't at all anxious. I walked about the home in silence during the morning, straightening a painting here, adjusting a vase there. Little pointless activities to kill time. The Maserati shone in the driveway like a black mirror in the sunlight. Beside it, the Jeep and Mustang stood with pride. By midday, my hired caterers were preparing a lavish buffet in the garden, complete with silver cutlery, white tablecloths, and buckets of chilled champagne. I didn't do anything. I just waited. The first vehicle arrived at precisely 1 o'clock. Jenna, my cousin, was there. I saw the mansion as soon as she got out of her dirty minivan while sporting her go-to fake fancy sunglasses. The hesitancy. She gave her husband a brief, piercing look as though to inquire, "Are we at the right place?" A second vehicle pulled up. Then another, and yet another. Their expressions were a mixture of bewilderment and incredulity as they spilled out into the driveway one by one. I couldn't hear Uncle Brian muttering something. In an attempt to appear disinterested, my brother James hummed softly to himself. My mother, who always wore a look of bored superiority at family gatherings, was motionless on the front steps, holding her purse tightly like a shield. For a long, beautiful moment, no one spoke. Then Jenna burst out laughing, too loud and brittle. She exclaimed, "Oh wow," as she adjusted her shades. "You, renting this place or something?" I gave a charming smile. "Not renting, bought it last month." She opened her mouth, then closed it. "You're kidding," another person remarked, half laughing, half panicking. They had never been unsteady before. They weren't accustomed to me being in control. The marble floors shone like water beneath the chandeliers, and I pointed to the open doors. "Come in. Make yourselves comfortable." Like visitors to a large museum, they cautiously made their way inside, avoiding contact with anything. As they moved through the spacious living room, the open kitchen, and the glass walls that looked out onto the well-kept backyard, I observed them from behind. They were rushing to change their stories, and I could see it in their expressions. The desperate search for an explanation that would allow them to maintain their sense of superiority. Their faces were plastered with fake smiles. "Wow," exclaimed my aunt. "This is, really nice. Good for you." Uncle Brian added, "Yeah," giving me a too firm pat on the back. "We always knew you had potential." I simply nodded. Let them speak. Allow them to tangle into knots. I no longer required their approval, never again. I wasn't here to make an impression. I came to bid you farewell. The catering staff presented small works of art, known as hors d'oeuvres, on silver trays. Bites of smoked salmon. Little Wellingtons made with beef. Tiny tartlets that appeared too good to devour. My family walked around seeming like they were at ease. A bit too loudly laughing. Praising the furnishings, the vista, and the tasteful design. It was simple to see beneath the surface though, as their eyes darted around, attempting to solve the problem they were unable to solve. How? When? Did you win the lottery? Was his claim of struggle a lie? They desperately wanted this to be untrue because if it were, it would mean that all of their assumptions about me and themselves were incorrect. Always the most audacious, James drew me away from the champagne table. So seriously, he replied with a grin. How do you swing all this? Who's paying you, or is it some kind of like crypto thing? I gave a faint smile. I built it, was all I said. He blinked. Built what? My company? My brand? Everything? He gazed at me as if I were speaking a foreign tongue. Constructed, not talented, not bumped into, constructed. James laughed, this weak trembling thing that didn't quite reach his eyes, and stroked my shoulder like if I were a child. Man, that's wild. Good for you. Really proud of you, bro. He wasn't, not for a moment. My mother looked at me from the opposite side of the room. She smiled at me, the tense, strained smile she used to wear to church when she pretended everything was just right. I gave a courteous nod. Today there would be no yelling. Don't argue, no charges. Just a single, tidy cut. I looked at my watch. It's almost time. I strolled to the middle of the room, where the marble floors were bathed in golden light from the chandeliers, and I raised a glass, not for a celebratory toast but for closure. The room instantly fell silent. Every discussion ended in the middle of a phrase. All of them looked at me expectantly and eagerly. I finally got their undivided attention after all this time. I let the silence to linger a bit too long while I held the glass loosely in my palm. I felt the pressure of their gazes on me, but I wasn't bothered by it for once. I was in charge of the room for once. I casually cleared my throat. I said, first of all, in a cool, collected tone, thank you all for coming. A couple of courteous nods. Uncomfortable foot shuffles. I'm sure you're wondering why I invited you here today, I said. And the truth is, it's not to brag. It's not to show off. With a gentle clink that sounded almost like a bell toll, I placed my glass down on an adjacent table. I brought you here because I owe you something. They became alert, feeling something. Perhaps they believed that I was going to give them a share of the pie. Perhaps they believed that I was going to tell those who had always supported me about my accomplishment. I allowed that dream to linger for a single, cruel heartbeat. Then I gave a chilly, final smile. When I said, I owe you a thank you. Because without you, none of this would exist. Whispers? Smiles of confusion. My voice was as steady as ice as I continued. I appreciate all of the insults you have ever directed at me while you assumed I wasn't paying attention. I appreciate you making fun of my dreams. I appreciate you placing bets against me, having doubts about me, and demonstrating unequivocally that your definition of family was limited to your personal comfort. James stirred uneasily. No one dared to interrupt Jenna as she appeared to be about to say something. I leaned in a little and took a breath. You taught me something valuable. You taught me that real family isn't blood, it's loyalty. It's respect. It's standing beside someone when there's nothing to gain. A rhythm. And because of that lesson, today is not just a celebration of what I built, it's a farewell. They were slapped across the face by the words. I'm cutting ties, I remarked in a low voice. After today, I will no longer be part of this family. Quiet. Complete and utter quiet. Then the roar burst forth like a dam bursting. But we're family, exclaimed Aunt Linda. Jenna stumbled. You can't be serious. James moved forward with a somewhat terrified expression. Hey man, come on. Don't be dramatic. Even my normally calm mother appeared to have taken a hit to the gut. She opened and closed her mouth, but no sound emerged. I simply grinned, genuinely this time. Free. When I said, I wish you the best. And I hope someday you realize what you lost. I turned after that. I then turned to go. I didn't turn around. I could hear the frantic cries behind me, the begging voices becoming softer with each stride. Wait, please, don't do this. We didn't mean it. You're making a mistake. I continued to walk. Beyond the marble flooring, beyond the chandeliers that gleam, past everything that meant nothing at all and once harmed me. I arrived at the front door. Stopped. Then I shut it behind me without thinking twice. Like the last ending of a chapter, the hefty thud reverberated throughout the house, not only of that particular day but also of my previous existence. The environment outside felt different as the door snapped shut behind me. My face was stroked by the cool breeze. The driveway was bathed in a gentle golden glow as the sun began to set. There was silence. Calm. For a moment, I just stood there and took it in. Not a sound. Not guilty. Don't second-guess yourself. My former existence was behind those walls. The days of begging for bits of affection and pursuing praise were finally, totally ended. And while I stood there beneath the open sky, I came to the following realization: the quiet wasn't meaningless. It was liberty. There was nothing that I owed them. No justifications. I'm not sorry. No pardon. They had already made their decisions. Finally, I had done the same. I wasn't escaping them for the first time in my life. I had no intention of proving anything. I just kept on going, without them. Months have passed since that day. And what do you know? I've never regretted it. The phone calls. The written word. After a while, they ceased. Initially, the messages were hostile. Then guilt trips. Then frantic excuses. None of them were answered by me. Entitled parents gave my brother $50 million while I have a dust gallery. Then I found the secret vault, and they stopped laughing. They laughed when I got the gallery instead of the fortune. Then the FBI showed up, and my brother was the one in handcuffs. While my brother received $50 million, my parents left me their failing art gallery. Enjoy the dust, he said with a giggle. Then I discovered the secret vault of my grandfather. And something that caused my brother to faint was within. Long shadows were created throughout the deserted exhibition area as the last of the sunshine streamed through Mason Gallery's dusty windows. I stood there attempting to take in the events of the previous day while inhaling the familiar smell of old wood and oil paint. Janice Mason is my name, and yesterday I received what my family regarded as their worst letdown. Boston's downtown art gallery is in decline. My memory of the lawyer's office was still clear. The grandfather clock, the massive mahogany desk, and the smugly pricey fragrance of my brother Marcus filled the room. Marcus couldn't suppress his joy as Mr. Harrington read out the contents of our parents' will, which should have been a solemn event. To our son, Marcus Mason, we leave the sum of $50 million, our Hampton estate, and controlling interest in Mason Industries. Mr. Harrington had spoken in a cold, professional tone. To our daughter, Janice, we leave Mason Gallery and its contents. In fact, Marcus had burst out laughing. Finally. Dad always said you get exactly what you deserved, Janice. His Italian leather shoes, his well-tailored suit, and the way he sat in his chair as if he owned the space are all still in my memory. Now, in many respects, he did. The gallery's been losing money for years, he added, looking at his neatly striped nails. But hey, at least you'll have plenty of dust to keep you company. Maybe you can sell pencil sketches to tourists. It turns out that Marcus was correct about the gallery's financial status. For the previous 10 years, Mason Gallery had been having difficulties. Once Boston's leading platform for up-and-coming artists, it has steadily deteriorated into a barely profitable business that most serious collectors ignored. However, Marcus didn't comprehend, and neither did my parents, that I had always noticed something here that they didn't notice. I spent many hours with my grandfather, Gerald Mason, the gallery's founder, growing up in these hallways. Grandpa Gerald educated me about painting as my mother planned Marcus's route to an MBA and my dad was busy preparing him for the family company. True art. The essence of each artwork, not just the price tags and financial potential that my parents were obsessed with. He would say, "Janice, my dear," with his eyes sparkling beneath wire-rimmed glasses. "Remember that true value isn't always visible at first glance. Sometimes the greatest treasures hide in plain sight, waiting for the right person to discover them." I could still hear those remarks as I passed through the main hall of the gallery. Even in its current state, the room was stunning, with high ceilings, traditional crown molding, and large windows that could let in an abundance of natural light when they were clean. However, years of little care had taken their toll. Half of the track lighting had burned out, the walls shouted out for new paint, and the hardwood flooring needed to be refinished. My footsteps reverberated in the quiet as I arrived at the rear office. Although my parents finally turned it into a sterile storage area, this had formerly been my grandfather's haven. The walls were lined with filing cabinets, and everything was covered in dust. However, I could still sense Grandpa Gerald's presence beneath everything. I recalled the stories he used to tell me about the gallery's early years as I ran my fingertips along his old desk, which is now tucked away in a corner and covered in boxes. How, in the 1960s, he transformed it from nothing into a sanctuary for artists who would go on to become legendary. Rumor had it that throughout the years, he had accumulated an amazing private collection. However, nothing noteworthy was ever discovered after his death 15 years ago. Of course, my folks had looked. Persuaded that Grandpa Gerald had stashed away masterpieces worth millions of dollars, they spent months looking through the gallery. They came in appraisers, employed specialists, and even had the walls inspected for secret passageways. They only discovered the gallery's standard stock, which had respectable pieces but nothing noteworthy. They eventually gave up. Due to some residual sense of duty to Grandpa Gerald's memory, the gallery was abandoned and eventually turned into a tax write-off. Instead, they concentrated on Mason Industries, preparing Marcus to carry on the real family tradition. While I worked as a curator at lesser museums and pursued my studies in art history, I shivered as a sharp draft brought me back to the here and now. While I was absorbed in my memories, night had fallen, and the gallery had a new feel in the shadows. The few paintings that were still on show appeared to be watching me with sly eyes, and the shapes of the sculptures cast odd shadows on the walls. I was going to head out when I noticed something. I had never before noticed a small unevenness in the floors close to Grandpa Gerald's desk. I knelt down and rubbed the wood with my hands. There was undoubtedly a problem with the pattern. A slight abnormality that didn't seem to be the effect of age but rather deliberate. As I recalled another of Grandpa Gerald's favorite sayings, my heart began to race. The best hiding place is one that looks like it's trying to hide something else. Over the course of the following hour, I thoroughly examined that floor and its surroundings. I was about to give up until my fingers discovered it. A small lever in the wood, disguised as a knot. I pulled it with shaky hands. The mechanism hardly produced a sound because it was so well built. A thin gap appeared beneath the floorboard as a small piece moved aside. A leather-bound diary with yellowed pages was inside, and one key, which appeared to be far older than the gallery itself. It was my grandfather's journal. I instantly recognized his unique handwriting. These notes, however, were hasty, almost frenzied, full of calculations, doodles, and what appeared to be coded signals. They were not written in his typical flowing style. I looked at one page. It said, "The True Collection. For Janice's eyes only," at the top in bold letters. I turned the page with trembling hands. However, my phone buzzed before I could continue reading. Marcus had texted me. "Meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m., time to discuss selling that dusty gallery of yours. I already have buyers interested in the building." I glanced at the letter and then back at the journal I was holding. What I just discovered was unknown to Marcus. And I intended to maintain it just that way for the time being. I made sure the floor panel was firmly closed before gently putting the journal and key back where they belonged. I felt different as I left the gallery that evening. I had changed the weight of my ostensibly useless inheritance into expectation. I was left more than a struggling gallery by my grandfather. He left me in the dark. And I would start revealing what Grandpa Gerald had kept concealed all those years ago tomorrow, while Marcus planned to strip this home for parts. The key felt more important in my fingers than ever when I secured the front entrance of the gallery. I grinned as I gazed up at the building's graceful exterior, recalling Grandpa Gerald's final words. "Patience, Janice. The best stories take time to unfold." He was correct. This was only the start. The following morning, I got to the gallery well in advance of my 9 a.m. getting together with Marcus. I hardly noticed the deserted halls being tinted in tones of gold by the morning. All I could think about was the secret compartment and what was inside. I knelt down next to Grandpa Gerald's old desk and pressed the hidden mechanism once more. Now the key and diary felt heavy with potential. I located a peaceful spot and started reading. "My dearest Janice," said the opening page. "If you're reading this, you've already proven you have the patience and perception I always saw in you. What I'm about to share must remain our secret. The true legacy of Mason Gallery isn't in its walls, but below them." As I turned the pages, my heart was pounding. The notebook told a remarkable tale that lasted for decades. In addition to running a gallery, Grandpa Gerald had been a member of a group of art preservationists who fought to keep masterpieces safe during difficult times. It seems that the gallery's basement was used for purposes other than storage. A sophisticated network of secret rooms beneath the main floor was depicted in a number of intricate drawings. The diary said that Grandpa Gerald had been covertly altering the building's original foundation for years in order to create a climate-controlled vault that nobody else was aware of. "The key," he said, "opens more than just a door. It opens a legacy I've spent my life building. But be careful, Janice. Others have searched for this collection, and not all of them have honest intentions." I jumped as I heard a harsh knock at the front door. Marcus was standing outside looking impatient. I hastily tucked the journal away and gathered my thoughts before opening the door for him. "Well, if it isn't the curator of dust," he said with a sly smile, walking right by me. I brought some potential buyers. They're interested in turning this place into luxury condos. Two men in pricey suits stood behind him. They appeared to be developers. They treated the gallery's past like a nuisance that needed to be destroyed and started talking about load-bearing walls and square footage right away. One of them, looking at his tablet, remarked, "The basement would make excellent parking space. According to the original plans, it's mostly unused." I was cold. Should they begin excavating there? "The gallery isn't for sale," I stated. Marcus's expression grew serious. "Don't be ridiculous, Janice. This place is worthless as an art gallery. You can barely pay the utilities." I said no. Marcus lowered his voice and took a step closer. "I know you had some sentimental attachment to Grandpa's little hobby, but it's time to grow up. Take the money and walk away." I slowly looked into his eyes. "Like you did? Taking millions while contributing nothing?" His face reddened. "I earned my inheritance by learning the business, not wasting time listening to an old man's fairy tales about art. Get out." I spoke quietly yet firmly. "All of you." Marcus cautioned, "You're making a mistake," as I led them to the exit. "I'm trying to help you." "I don't need your kind of help." My heart thumping, I leaned against the wall after they had gone. Marcus was a man who never gave up easily. "I have to get things done quickly." I went back to the diary and carefully examined the basement blueprints. According to Grandpa Gerald's notes, the vault's entrance was concealed in the northwest corner of the basement behind a fake wall. If the key was used properly, it would trigger a mechanism. I inhaled deeply before descending the stairs to the basement. It was just as I remembered, rows of metal shelves with decades worth of paperwork, old show materials, and wrapped artworks and sculptures. I saw it differently today, though. I headed for the northwest corner as directed by the logbook. The bare concrete walls met at a straight angle, and it appeared solid at first glance. However, I noticed faint abnormalities in the pattern when I rubbed my fingertips across the surface. What looked like a tiny fracture in the concrete was precisely where the key fit. I turned it with trembling hands in the order recorded in the journal. 1/4 to the left, 3/4 to the right, and then back to the right. Nothing happened for a second. Then I heard it. A faint click, then the murmur of machinery that was hidden. Silently, the artificial wall swung in, exposing a steel door with an advanced electronic keypad. I was also ready for this thanks to the journal. The code was created in a particular manner and was predicated on a crucial date, the day Grandpa Gerald inaugurated the gallery. I meticulously typed the numbers. 1965,412. Climate-controlled air swept over me as the door opened with a soft hiss. I was astounded by the scene that was illuminated by motion-activated lights that flickered on. The vault was enormous, much bigger than it ought to have been. The walls were lined with rows of meticulously conserved paintings, each housed in a specially made cabinet. On pedestals, sculptures were displayed, their shapes creating elaborate shadows. Smaller items, including rare manuscripts, antiquated antiques, and things I knew from my art history coursework but had never anticipated seeing in reality, were displayed in display cases. A plain desk with a letter positioned exactly in the center stood in the midst of the room. My hands trembled as I opened it. "Janice, my darling, in the True Mason Gallery, you will find complete documentation for every item in the vault, including its provenance, history, and most importantly, its rightful owners. Some of these pieces were entrusted to me for safekeeping during difficult times, while others were saved from those who would have destroyed them for political or financial gain. What you see around you is the result of a lifetime of work, not just mine, but the efforts of countless others who believed in preserving beauty and history. This collection exists to be safeguarded until the appropriate moment for each piece to return home, not to be sold or showcased for prestige. Because you recognize that art is about sustaining the thread of human creativity that unites us all, rather than about status or price tags, I have selected you for this responsibility. There's a smaller room at the back of the vault, and that collection is different, items I've lawfully acquired over the years, meticulously verified and documented, and those are yours to do with as you please. They should supply more than enough funds to keep the gallery and the vault operating as intended. Be cautious, be patient, and most importantly, be loyal to the role you have been given. With all of my affection, Gerald, Grandpa. I looked at everything in the vault in awe for hours. Works by masters I had only read about, pieces believed to be lost to time, and others whose existence had only been reported made up the astounding collection. I discovered hundreds of carefully chosen pieces by painters whose values had risen dramatically over the years in the private collection Grandpa Gerald had indicated. They are valued at much over $100 million, even by modest estimates. However, it wasn't the cash that made me cry. It was the faith my grandfather had put in me, The legacy he had, without my knowledge, set for me all those years before. The magic was broken by a notification on my phone. Marcus left several missed calls and sent a text message. "This isn't over. You're making a huge mistake." I grinned as I surveyed the vault's precious collection, which my brother would have sold without hesitation. I was absolutely sure of my direction for the first time since I inherited the gallery. I made my way back upstairs and carefully secured the vault. Work needed to be done. The gallery required remodeling. It was time to upgrade security. I also had a legacy to uphold. One thing Marcus was correct about was that this was far from over. However, he was unaware of what he was actually up against. I was suddenly the custodian of something far more valuable than money could buy, while he planned to take what he believed to be a building of little value. I said as I peered up at the gallery's walls, "Thank you, Grandpa Gerald. I won't let you down." The weeks that followed were filled with a lot of activity. I had contractors sign strict confidentiality agreements before I could hire them to restore the gallery's original characteristics. To keep curious onlookers away, the basement was marked as undergoing environmental assessment and remained completely off-limits. I read through Grandpa Gerald's journal at night to discover the backstories of every item in the vault. Some had been saved from more recent wars, while others had been saved from Nazi theft during World War II. Every piece of art had a comprehensive file with information on its original owners and the events leading up to my grandfather's possession. Marcus, however, kept his word and wasn't giving up. The legal threats came first. His attorneys sent him a hefty letter demanding an immediate sale, arguing that the gallery's declining state amounted to careless handling of family property. I gave it to my own lawyer, an expert in art law, whom I had discreetly hired with money from the sale of a single small item from my grandfather's private collection. Then came the strain of money. Marcus interfered with the gallery's utility supplies, insurance, and even the property tax assessment by using his contacts. Every time, I used resources he was unaware I possessed to oppose his movements. The pivotal moment occurred on a soggy Tuesday morning. When I got to the gallery, Marcus and two unfamiliar men were waiting. "These gentlemen are from the Boston Historical Society," he replied. He had a razor-sharp smile. "They're very interested in examining the building's original foundation. Apparently, there are concerns about structural integrity." The way they handled themselves and the tiny bulges under their coats made it clear to me right away that they were not from any historical society. They were, at worst, private detectives. I firmly stated, "The gallery is closed for renovations. Any inspections need to be scheduled through proper channels." Among the men, one moved forward. "We have authorization to leave," I interrupted him. "Or I'll call the actual authorities." Marcus stayed after they had gone. "What are you hiding, Janice? There's something in this building worth protecting, isn't there? Something Grandpa Gerald left behind?" "The only thing I'm protecting is this gallery's future," I responded. "Why can't you accept that?" His face grew serious. "Because I know you. You were always his favorite, always listening to his stories. He must have told you something. Let me give you some clues." "The clue is in plain sight, Marcus. You just never cared enough to look." I realized that evening that I needed to expedite my plans. Marcus was becoming desperate, and individuals who are desperate tend to make bad decisions. I meticulously documented everything in the vault for hours on end. Then I called 3 people, the world's foremost authority on art repatriation, a contact at Interpol, and an old friend at the FBI's Art Crime Division. Marcus took action 2 days later. When I heard the basement door open, I was working late. 3 dark-clad males were seen on security cameras heading downstairs. I knew exactly who had sent them, even though Marcus wasn't with them. I calmly pressed the quiet alarm, which was a customized one I'd built that was directly connected to police enforcement, rather than the gallery's standard system. After that, I headed to the basement. The workers were already at the northwest corner, using specialized tools to examine the wall. When I walked in, they hardly gave me a look. I said, "Looking for something?" One snarled, "Lady, just walk away. This doesn't concern you." "Actually," I said with a grin, "it concerns me very much. So do the federal agents who just surrounded the building." Voices burst from above as if on cue. "FBI, this is a federal art crimes investigation. Everyone remains where you are?" What happened next was a haze of activity. The would-be robbers were taken into custody. Marcus was taken up at his house after being located via their phones. Everything was exposed by the search warrants, including his ambitions for the gallery, his hired goons, and even his ties to certain dishonest collectors who dealt in stolen art. The following morning, however, was the true surprise. At the gallery, I had scheduled a special meeting. Officials from several governments were present, as were representatives from museums and cultural organizations worldwide. We went down into the vault together. As the collection was unveiled by the lights, their gasps reverberated off the walls. As long-lost masterpieces were rediscovered, tears were shed. When artifacts that were believed to be destroyed were discovered to be completely preserved, museum directors embraced one another. I gave Grandpa Gerald access to everything, including his meticulous paperwork, documents, and the backstories of how each item had ended up in his custody. We would collaborate over the course of the following year to restore each piece of art to its proper location, bringing the gallery recognition on a global scale for what it gave back rather than what it owned. Marcus, who had lost his freedom and reputation due to his own selfishness, watched it all happen from behind bars. He would have plenty of time to consider his options because the evidence discovered in his house had linked him to other art trafficking enterprises. Regarding the gallery itself, I created a foundation devoted to safeguarding and conserving art in times of war by using a portion of Grandpa Gerald's own collection. The gallery evolved into a hub for activism and education, educating the next generation on the value of cultural heritage. I was standing in the newly remodeled main hall exactly 1 year after I had found the vault. The original architectural details had been brought back to their former splendor, and the room was flooded with light. As Grandpa Gerald had done when he originally founded the gallery, a special exhibition was about to begin, but it would feature works by up-and-coming local artists rather than priceless masterpieces. I have 2 items on my desk in my office, which used to be Grandpa Gerald's haven. His journal, which serves as a reminder of the heritage he left me, is the first. The second is a brief news article from the day Marcus was convicted, which serves as a reminder that genuine value lies in what you choose to preserve rather than what you can take. The Mason name is still used by the gallery, but it now represents something else. A dedication to conserving art for upcoming generations, not merely a family tradition. I sense Grandpa Gerald's presence every day as I pass through these hallways. He would be proud, I'm sure of it. Sometimes, when it's quiet in the gallery late at night, I reflect on how I almost gave up and allowed Marcus to turn this place into just another opulent development when I initially discovered the secret compartment in the floor. But I had learned a lot from Grandpa Gerald. Sometimes the finest riches are hidden from view. Additionally, some items have significantly higher values than their market value. There is no longer anything in the vault beneath the gallery. Although its contents have been returned to their proper locations across the globe, the area is nonetheless prepared in case it is ever needed again. A hidden chamber ready to guard the next historical artifact that needs to be preserved. And occasionally I share Grandpa Gerald's favorite quote with young artists who come to the exhibition with eyes that sparkle with the same fervor I once witnessed in his. True value isn't always visible at first glance. Sometimes the greatest treasures hide in plain sight, waiting for the right person to discover them. They never understand that I'm discussing more than just art. The gallery, which everyone believed to be useless, ended up being valuable not because of its contents but rather because of its legacy of preservation, protection, and the realization that some things are more valuable than all the money in the world. Marcus might have received the money from our parents' estate, but I gained something far more valuable, a goal, a purpose, and the opportunity to demonstrate that sometimes the best form of retaliation isn't getting even but rather doing the right thing. With its windows shining in the sunlight, the Mason Gallery is a tall building in the heart of Boston. It's no longer the dilapidated dusty place my brother made fun of. It serves as a ray of hope, a defender of culture, and evidence that genuine value frequently extends well beyond appearances. And me, Janice Mason, the letdown who received the useless bequest, is no longer me. I am the guardian of a generation-spanning legacy. The guardian of a custom that prioritizes preservation over financial gain. And the evidence that, if you know where to look, the greatest things in life can occasionally be found shrouded in dust. Thanks for watching and being part of the drama. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a wild news story.